Recording in progress.
Madam Clerk, please start the meeting.
One moment, Mayor.
Thank you.
You're ready to go.
Before we start the meeting, as we always do, we're going to open up in Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Penalosa, please, will you lead us?
Sure, of course. If you could all please rise and join me, facing our flag. Place your right hand over your heart and follow along. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman. I hereby reconvene the Santa Ana City Council meeting to order. This meeting is taking place with in-person attendance and by teleconference via Zoom. The public may access the meeting via the Santa Ana YouTube channel or the city's website. Please bear with us as the technology may disrupt the flow of the meeting. As a reminder, this is a meeting to conduct the business of the city. As mayor, I am afforded the opportunity to call for a recess or break or to even clear the meeting room if a meeting becomes too disruptive to properly conduct business. Warnings will be provided prior to any action taken. We appreciate your cooperation. For everyone's safety, per the fire marshal, please do not stand or place objects in the aisles in front of the dais, along the back wall of the council chamber, or in front of the entrances and exits. Guidelines for members of the news media and anyone else who wishes to film or photograph the meeting are available in the lobby. Madam Clerk, please conduct the roll call.
Councilmember Becerra.
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Lopez. Here. Councilmember Penalosa.
Present.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Fan.
Here.
Mayor Mesqua.
Present.
All members present.
Thank you. Madam City Attorney, can you please clarify what exactly we are doing tonight, please?
Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and council members, today we're having an adjourned meeting. I don't think we've done one of these before, but an adjourned meeting takes place as if the meeting that you were conducting last Tuesday never ended. We just pick up exactly upon that point at which you decided to adjourn. You do not at this meeting take any additional public comment outside of a public hearing where you're required to listen to members of the public. So we will just continue to work forward as upon those items that you moved forward at your last meeting, and that we'll just conduct this meeting as if it were a Tuesday evening.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Madam City Clerk, we're going to open up with the consent calendar item number 10, please.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 10 was pulled by Councilmember Becerra.
Do we have a staff report, Mr. City Manager, or anything?
Yes, we do. The Executive Director for Community Development, Mike Garcia, will help.
Thank you.
Mayor, City Council, the item before City Council for consideration tonight is a $150,000 sponsorship with Frida Cinema to continue the art walk on the first Saturday of every month. This money is coming out of a $270,000 budget that the Community Development Agency sets aside for contract services, which includes sponsorships. And I am ready to get into more detail if there are any questions from City Council.
Thank you. If you'd like to speak, Council, please raise your mic so I know. Councilman, anybody? Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank members of the public who waited last Tuesday's meeting to share their comments and support of the Art Walk. Over the last 4 years as a council member representing downtown, I've had the honor of working very closely with many of our businesses and stakeholders in the downtown. I recognize the Frida Cinema Theater as one of the leaders in creating culture in downtown. And more importantly, I recognize that the Frida Cinema has been a place for dialogue. It's been a place where culture and community come together. And through the Frida Cinema's leadership, they have been able to spearhead a very organic grassroots art walk that is inclusive of local businesses and artists, and more importantly, local residents. And it is certainly a important transition for the downtown that more of our local residents are at the table. And I feel that this approach is going to bring community closer together than we've ever seen for the Art Walk, and that is why I'll make a motion to approve this item. I'll put a motion on the floor.
Madam Mayor,
The item was,
I have some questions. Where's Director Garcia? Oh, there you are. So, if you could remind me again, so how did this item get on the agenda?
During the budget presentation in June, we thought it was appropriate to bring the item forward. Frida Cinema had been coming and operating the first Saturday Art Walk of the month since the Downtown Business Improvement District was disestablished. And so they had been coming to city council or to city staff about whether we would consider a donation agreement for sponsorship. And so during the budget items in June, this was something that we thought might be considered by city council for funding. We had money in the contracts, services professional budget item for economic development. And so we're pulling the money from that if city council approves.
Well, thank you for that, Director Garcia. And you just said something very important for all of us to understand. And that is, this item was previously funded by the downtown bid, correct?
That's correct.
And so now the downtown bid, at the behest of the downtown businesses, disbanded.
That's correct.
And they came to the council and they lobbied all the council members and said, please, 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 we don't want to be a bid anymore, which means we don't want to self-assess and we don't want to pay for this item, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I support the Art Walk. I always have. There have been folks in the community that put down the Art Walk and said that it wasn't something that was going to draw people into downtown Santa Ana, and jokes on them, it has been. It's been a success, and Logan Crow's been an amazing champion for that, and I think if there's anybody that's going to take it on going forward, it would be Logan. At least I'm less nervous with Logan taking it on. But we have to, you're going to hear me say the same thing that you hear me say on a lot of items, which is we're going to be facing some dire straits when it comes to our finances pretty soon. Staff brought to us a budget that included upside down numbers on the parking structures and the meters. And I believe that item, Mr. City Manager, that'll be coming back to us, probably December, January?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so that'll be coming back to us so we can start to look at how we sustain things, because the last thing we want to do is go ahead and fund this and then be able to say, sorry, Logan, sorry, everybody, we're not going to continue to do this. So I'm going to support this item, but I would say that we need to start, and I'm looking at staff and I'm looking at our folks in downtown, we need to look at something a little more sustainable for the long term, because this is a very, very awesome event and it needs to continue to happen, but we need to figure out how to make sure it continues to happen, because the path that it's on right now, I think it's going to continue to be an exciting event, but I don't want to see it just all of a sudden disappear. So I'm saying this now so that nobody can say later, well, we didn't even think about it and now we're shortchanged. I want to make sure that we start to have that conversation now so that we can end up with this continuing for many, many years to come. So with that, I'll second Councilmember Hernandez's motion.
Mayor, if I may, so part of this realization is exactly this, right? We understand that we are coming to that type of realization where we're going to have to really evaluate the type of investment we can downtown. But again, working with a group like Logan, who has a historical aspect regarding this type of events, and what it also does, right, is for me, for us as a city, we see it as an economic development posture, right? We bring people to the downtown, they spend money in our restaurants, they spend money in our retail, in fact, they spend money on our parking structures, right? So for us, that is going to be part of the evaluation, and we would have that discussion also during the budget time so we can evaluate more clearly.
I appreciate that. And in fact, I would even add that I think one of the best art walks that we have throughout the year is the one that happens to come with Dia de los Muertos. I mean, that's probably the one with the most energy in the downtown, seeing everybody come together on those nights. It's amazing. So I'm happy to see this item before us, and I'm hopeful that my colleagues will be supporting it. Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, go ahead, Councilman Vasquez.
Well, you're welcome for Dia de los Muertos. When we moved it from the Yost to this side, to the west side, the restaurants didn't know what was happening. They sold out of food by 5 o'clock. All the restaurants, and it was the biggest day, and I'm happy to have them sell out, and everybody else. Like there's a beauty salon, and they were like, we lose business. I'm like, start painting faces on your chairs, and they did well. So as long as they take that day. So and Art Walk is also one of those things. Art Walk every day, every month becomes that. It's so lively, and it boosts, like the city manager said, it boosts the economy, it generates tax revenue, brings people here. It increases the patronage of the restaurants. People want to be in downtown Santa Ana. It's a family-friendly event, place for us to hang out, and it celebrates our cultural history. So many of our local artists come out, and they're able to sell their goods and wares and whatever they make, and it's just a beautiful time, and I will be supporting this item. Thank you.
No other comments? Go ahead, Councilman Lopez.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, staff, for letting us know where the funding is coming. I'm also going to be supporting the item tonight. I think Councilmember Vasquez summed it up pretty good as to why this is a great event for our city. It promotes the different businesses in the downtown area, but also local vendors. One of the things that I love most about this event is that it works with the school district, so it brings in the kids and it works with the youth of the city to promote their art, and also the partnership with the local galleries, right? Which we've heard in the past about wanting to see them be inclusive of our community members. And so it's really an important direct economic benefit to the downtown, but not just that, it brings visitors from all over the city and all over the county. I've met people during Art Walk that have come solely to explore it from San Diego, and I think that's incredible, and it really speaks to what the event can offer to a range of people, and so I'm happy to support tonight.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, speaking of going to Art Walk and running into people, I ran into Councilmember Vasquez at Art Walk, thereabouts, a few weeks ago. And so I always tell my friends to go whenever they're in town on the first Saturday of the month. I think I'm fully supportive of this item. I think we're all in support of Art Walk. I guess my question or my ask of staff is, hey, let's come back and think about some ways to make this a more sustainable idea. It might not be a bid or in the traditional sense of a bid, but I think that, since we're all benefiting, there has to be let's say, some type of joint venture I would like to see that can keep this something that is sustainable year after year and is not solely reliant on the city's general fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that comment, because I was going to bring that up. This start, and thank you, Logan, for everybody who's making this happen. But also with Santa Ana Unified, when the school board years ago allocated additional funding for the arts, we have all of our kids out there performing, bringing their artwork and whatnot. But the Mayor Pro Tem is correct. It would be great that if we can share that funding. Each school site has funding, site funding. And it may be great, Mr. City Manager, to have that conversation with the superintendent, because every school that participates in the Art Walk may be able to use some of their site discretionary funds to help our youth and to grow it so it becomes larger and it's more youth focused in certain areas. But I also am supporting it because it does wonders for our children, for our families, and we know in our schools it has improved their academic performance as well. And so that is very, very important. But we can't carry the burden financially for everything, as I always say, and I'm going to support it, and I will always support this when it comes down to this type of work. But I think it's important, Mr. City Manager, because you have a good relationship with the superintendent, to really share with him how you and him can partner up and use some of the schools, the different schools' site discretionary funds, and they don't need to use millions of dollars, just the students that are involved in the art projects, and use the site discretionary funds. You can meet with the school site councils and ask for some funding from those school sites, because from the elementary level all the way to the high school level, they have the school councils and they have their site discretionary funds, and the amount is based on the number of students at each school site. Sometimes it's a lot of money. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and I also will be supporting the item. Thank you. If there are no further comments, let's prepare to vote, please.
Just have a very quick comment, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'm very happy to see that all of us are are working towards the same goal, and that's investing in Santa Ana. That's what this decision is about. But just words of encouragement for Logan Crow and the Frida Cinema. Work closer than you ever have with your local community and our students at Santa Ana Unified. I think one of the areas that I want to emphasize that is important is that downtown Santa Ana become more family friendly. A place where mothers and families can go and enjoy themselves, have dinner, straight after school, but also that environment also exists during the art walk. I know that there's a lot of amenities for adults that they enjoy, but I think if we can make the downtown Santa Ana art walk more family friendly, include some more amenities for kids, include more opportunities for kids to engage, maybe more child friendly booths, literature, things of that sort, maybe get the library involved some way. But we want to help, we want to be at the table. And then as we have impactful events like the Mid-Autumn Festival that comes up, work closely with local organizations to highlight the history of the API community. In the Black History Month, work with local organizations like Second Baptist Church, the churches that are in our neighborhood, the Orange County Heritage Council, Chicano Heritage Month in the month of August. Work with a lot of, great local-owned businesses. But more importantly, I think there's an opportunity for the city to work closer with our school district, and I think the Art Walk's a good example. And you guys will be that liaison to help build that bridge. So just want to share those words of encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's prepare to vote, please.
A motion by Councilmember Hernandez, seconded by Councilmember Becerra to approve item number 10, a donation agreement with the Frida Cinema to sponsor the DTSA First Saturday Art Walk. Councilmember Hernandez.
It's not coming up here, but my vote is yes.
Vote is 7 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Thank you.
Mayor, the next item is item number 11. It was approved on Tuesday night. However, both Councilmember Hernandez and Vasquez wish to make a comment.
Councilmember Vasquez, please.
Thank you so much. I've been getting a lot of comments. What's happening at Jerome? What's happening at Jerome, Vasquez? I just was there and they're fixing the fields. No, what's happening at Jerome? There's gonna be a library. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's gonna be a library. That's great, Mr. Vasquez. The homies got to read too. The homies got to learn how to read. So I was very excited for that. And libraries are so important to us. It's not only a library to check out books for people that love to read, but it's economic development. It's a place where we get better and stronger readers that are going to attract industry into our city. It's also a safe place. Libraries like parks and rec centers are a safe place for our children, where we have households where 15 people are living in a one-unit house.
Yes.
Because this item 11 is for the Logan Community Center?
Oh, yes, item 11 is amendment to the facilities use agreement with the Training and Research Foundation to add the Logan Community Center as a service location to provide licensed after-school programming until the end of 24-25 school year. So if your comments are not about that, then.
Oh, they are. I thought I'm on the wrong comment.
Okay.
But I'll proceed. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I'll proceed.
Are you going to comment about this?
Yes, of course.
Okay, let's comment about that,
Thank you so much.
please. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Yeah, we need this place. It's in dire need. Families need a place. Again, families need safe places to go. And for us to be a partner in the community, for us to find these partnerships and be able to support our families at the same time is very necessary. We have a lot of families who spend most of their money on rent or mortgage, and we pay a high rent. And this is just a very good service that we're giving out. And I'm so happy that the city came and created this partnership in this community where it's very needed. Thank you.
Councilman Hernandez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank our city staff who worked day in and day out to bring this agreement to the council. The history on what we are approving today, which is the facilities use agreement with the Training and Research Foundation to add the Logan Community Center as a service location provider, licensed after-school programming until the end of 2024-25. On August 17th of 2021, the City Council approved a facilities use agreement with the Training and Research Foundation to operate childcare centers at Corbin Community Center, El Salvador Community Center for a term beginning August 17th of 2021 and ending August 31st of 2026. Based on the needs of the community, staff is recommending the expansion of these services to assist families in the city. This agreement came about, they actually reached out to the city and had their own grant funding. And in 2021, at the time, we had Mayor Vicente Sarmiento, and they advocated to our mayor and my office, and we worked together with our city manager at the time to bring this agreement to the council. I was very happy to see that we were able to come to terms and get this approved. We are now seeing the expansion of childcare across several neighborhoods in our city at no additional cost to our taxpayers. And what is most exciting is that what staff is recommending in this amendment to our current facilities use agreement, the Training and Research Foundation pays the city a monthly fee of $2,000 for use of facilities for current service locations at Corbin Center and El Salvador Community Center. As proposed, the TRF Foundation will now pay a monthly fee of $600 for the use of the Logan Community Center, increasing the total monthly fees payable from $2,000 to $2,600. This is a fantastic partnership between the city and the Training Research Foundation. Thank you, City Manager Nunez, for putting this on the agenda, and I'm happy to see that we got this approved at our council meeting on Tuesday. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item, please.
Yes, Mayor and City Council. The next item is item number 12, Power of One Foundation Agreement. It's pulled by Council Members Hernandez and Lopez.
Thank you. Councilmember Lopez, please.
Yes, thank you. Very excited about the event. I think it's going to be a great time. I'm excited to be there. But as we just heard with the previous item, we can't carry the burden financially of everything that we do in the city. And so one of my concerns is that, even though this event was not budgeted for during this fiscal year, it was not part of the fiscal conversations, the budget conversations, unlike the previous event that was. I think the main issue for me is being asked to approve an event that wasn't necessarily allocated for. And so when I was looking at the staff report, and everybody should read the staff report, it's really light. There are a couple costs that don't come through, or that I don't necessarily understand who is covering those costs, because I don't want the city to be out of pocket for costs. And so I know that there's an estimate of $20,000 for PD services that I'm assuming the organization has agreed to pay. I don't know if you want to confirm that on the record.
Ask the question again.
The $20,000, and it's not a final amount, which I think is also the very difficult part of this contract to understand, because we don't know exactly what the total pay is going to be for PD's presence, right? But the estimate that has been given to everybody on this dais is $19,000. So
part of the overall presentation of the staff report, and this we presented as a proof of concept, is exactly for that. So we are given an estimate of $20,000 for the police department, right? We're also given a specific amount regarding the covering of the actual stadium, the turf, the AstroTurf, at $118,500. And so those are some of them are very specific. Some of the costs for staff, it depending on how it comes out and the amount of people that we have. So some of it is as clear as can be, and that's why when we present the staff, it's not to be ambivalent, but to actually have that discussion as a proof of concept. Right, when we ask for, and this is the consideration before the city council and the mayor, is that this is what it takes to have an event like this and to activate the Eddie Westfield. Whether the city joins in the risk, right, and that's what you see in this contract, you have this partnership where we're saying, look, if we could have just done it like we do with the school districts, for example, where we actually say it costs $40,000 for them to come and rent the Eddie West, they still have to come up with $120,000 for the covering of the field, right? Whether the promoter or the school district comes up with that cost, or we do. In this situation, we're asking the city council to consider this proof of concept, where we share in the risk and we also share in the potential earnings. In other words, if the promotion goes out and the event goes successfully, right, we recover the cost, but not just the cost, we also share in hopefully, the winnings, the earnings. So that's the kind of level of presentation we did. That's why when you look at the contract and you look at the presentation, it has that level of tiers, if you will. And we have Parks and Recreation Director that can provide a little bit more detail if you need.
You have other questions, Councilmember
I
Lopez?
do. And again, I'm very happy with the concept. I think it will be successful. But the risk is we don't know what type of success we're going to see, right? And you see that in the staff report with the different scenarios. One of the scenarios even says, hey, the city may not make any money at all. In fact, we will lose money on this event. Personnel time, public works, parks, PD, all of the administrative costs. On top of that, we would also lose, I think, around $9,000 for the facility fee that isn't being covered right now by the organization that the city is absorbing, and the more than $100,000 for the turf, again, that the city is absorbing. And so when I was talking to staff about, help me understand, right, how is this cost going to be recuperated by the city, and not just the permit fee, the $9K, and the $100,000 for the field, which I know is incredibly important for Parks and Recs, for soccer games, all of the different programming. But how are we making sure that we are also going to recuperate personnel's time, which is not reflected in the staff report?
I got cut off already. Cool. Oh, there it is. I could have just done loud voice. So, like City Manager Nunez was saying, it's a win or lose situation. Back when we were developing.
Again, but how do we not put the city in a lose situation? That is my point of view here.
Well, it's a risk we're taking, and there's more benefits of what we're doing to this. Like I said, we're going to go for, if approved, we will go through the event, we'll have this set up, and that gives us an opportunity to showcase what the stadium would look like to send out to our promoters and promotions and stuff like that to come to this. It's a proof of concept. We are helping them as much as we can to help promote, help push it. And they have already started selling tickets. They have already sold some of the VIP. They have got sponsorships. And of course, at the day of the event, they are going to be selling, alcohol, liquor, wine, and all that goes together into what the tier is. So again, it's a cost estimate of what they could make and what they potentially could make. So again, it is a risk of, reward, but we may lose, but it may not lose a lot. But the further effects of what this can do is much greater.
Okay, got it. So I guess on my end, had this been proposed a couple years ago when we had a surplus of dollars, federal dollars, to directly benefit or support events like this for revitalization purposes, I wouldn't have had an issue. But I think because, again, this wasn't a budgeted event, this wasn't a council-directed event, this is something that we've seen the promotions, but we haven't fully fleshed out here. And again, my main concern is all of the thousands of dollars that the city is not guaranteed to come back. I want to be able to support it because I think the concept is a great concept, but I do want to ask that language be included, that all indirect costs be recuperated by the city. And of course, that is inclusive of personnel staff time.
Thank you, Councilman Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Director Hawk-Scott, for answering those questions. I share very similar concerns. My concerns are going to stem from the fact that, for one, this event is very costly. I think the concept is a great one, but Power of One Foundation, they're a nonprofit, and I looked into their history of concerts, and there's not a whole lot of history that we can point to of them being successful concert promoters. When I look at the cost of this event, it exceeds $530,374. And the foundation has estimated that the event will generate approximately $775,950 of revenue. Under normal circumstances, the city would collect a fee of $9,005 for the rental fee of the Eddie West. However, in lieu of the normal rental fee, the city and the foundation are attempting to agree to the following formula for cost recovery for the event, as outlined in the table below. The milestones are, number one, 0 to 25%. The city would have cost recovery at, if they sold 0 to 25% of tickets, there would be a maximum of $13,259 given back to the city, meaning we would lose out over $100,000. Number two is 26 to 50% of ticket sales. The city would earn a maximum of $53,037, 20% of revenue, while losing out still over $100,000. Number three would be 51% to 75%. Maximum that the city would earn is $118,548, which is the exact cost we'd be paying for the materials to cover the field. Plus, we would earn only $786 in addition to that. If this event is a complete success, where they sold out 100%, 76% to 100%, the maximum money we would earn is getting our money back, $118,548, plus we would only earn an additional $9,005, which is the entire stadium rental fee. In addition to that, we would get 20% of the revenue of the total costs, which means the maximum earnings we'd have as a city is only $49,115. But we're spending over $130,000 to earn $49,115. This is fiscally backwards. And it's a challenge and a risk that we're taking that I feel we're not in a position to make. The event also seems very political. It is endorsed and sponsored by one labor group, the Santa Ana Police Officers Association. And there are politicians at this dais that are very closely attached to the POA and to this event. And I am concerned that if we enter into agreement here, there will be potential political campaigning. And so to protect the city from liability, I will make a motion to not move forward with this agreement.
Councilman Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So with this event, I think maybe some folks missed what this was actually. Everybody says they read the staff report, but it says proof of concept, right? Proof of concept. So this is not saying that this is absolutely going to work or not work. We're taking a gamble. We are. And I'm kind of entertained at the idea that people up here who throw out numbers for funding for events with no backup whatsoever have all of a sudden become born again, fiscally responsible. Love it. I just love it. It's very entertaining. And then, of course, we hear the real reason why this issue is even before us tonight. It's the fact that politics. We're in silly season, and God forbid if somebody that you don't agree with wants to put on an event in the city, now we got to drag them through the mud. Okay, whatever. One of the things that I want to talk about doesn't have to do with the politics, but rather just how we actually put on these events. And Director Scott, if you can come up. So we've seen events let me take a step back. We've lost events in this city because of ambiguities, because we say that we need certain things and then it's either TBD or, don't worry, the invoice is in the mail, it'll arrive. We lost OC Pride, and this is not necessarily you. I'm going to also look at Acting Chief Rodriguez on this when it comes to what we're billing. So, for instance, Section F of the agreement says foundation shall, let me go to Section I real quick. I'm going to jump back to F. Foundation shall provide additional restrooms as deemed necessary by city parks and rec staff for the event, and the cost of such additional restrooms will be added to the overall budget for the event. So I've been to the stadium a couple times. I feel like there's a couple of restrooms already there, but my understanding is we're going to be adding some portable restrooms. So it's really unclear, and I'm saying this as a question, is it really unclear how many of these additional restrooms we'll need and how much they cost?
So the restrooms that you're referring to are the ones that are going to be down on the stadium for the VIP, for the actors, for the performers.
Right.
So they're also selling the VIP, they're selling the tables, they're selling all that. So that's specifically for down there. The stadium restrooms will hold, as they have always, the people that are in the stands. But for the additional restrooms, they are for the ones on the bottom. So, they do come up all nice, just they're not having to climb through the stairs, and you're not separating the VIPs from the general admission. So the additional restrooms are at the bottom.
Dr. Scott, I'm sorry, I get the concept of why you would have those, but what I'm trying to understand is, why would we not just give an upfront cost? This is what we anticipate it to be.
Like I said, I was working with the foundation on that and them giving us the accurate numbers.
Okay, and I'm going to throw the same question over at PD, because from my understanding, that's why we lost OC Pride, because they get these invoices from PD. The stadium has been around since the 1960s. So I can't imagine that PD goes, oh, wow, new terrain, let's see how many we need. You guys have done plenty of games there. You guys have done plenty of events there. It shouldn't be a question how much it costs. How many officers do you need? If, let's say half the stadium's populated, this is how many officers we need. If it's, just a huge success and it's bursting at the seams, this is how many officers we need. But I feel like we don't, as a city, give these folks, that want to use our facilities the ability to understand what the potential range of cost is. It's TBD. I've had conversations with current tenants of the stadium who say to me, hey, we get a bill months down the road and sometimes it's pretty big and we didn't anticipate that. Is there a way, Acting Chief Rodriguez, that we can, I guess, provide some predictability when it comes to the cost of policing? Because I don't feel like it's really that ambiguous. If there's a giant traumatic event at the bowl, I think that goes above and beyond what the reasonable expectation is of the folks renting the bowl. So as far as the reasonable staffing of the bowl, is there a way that we could provide a reasonable range for folks wanting to use the bowl?
Thank you, Councilmember, for the question. And the response is there is a formula that they use or practice. And from what I understand, they're still in the planning stages. As a matter of fact, there's a meeting tomorrow regarding this event. But right now, preliminary, based on the estimates, if we estimate 7,000 to 10,000 people attending, we are staffing 14 officers, 2 sergeants. That's 16 officers, and that's where we get the cost of 19,000. Is there potential for additional staffing needed? It all depends on the venue, if they reach full capacity. So there is a formula or an estimation of best practices of the size of the event, population, and officers.
Okay, great. No, thank you for that. And so another issue I have is on the flooring. So that's a huge cost. That's a huge barrier for somebody that wants to do an event in our bowl to have to pay, $118,000. That's in addition to the $9,000 for the rental fee. Forget all the cost sharing, revenue generating, just simply, I'd like to do a concert at the stadium. Well, thank you, sir, for your application. That'll be $9,000 for the fee and $118,000 for flooring. How does that make us competitive just in the regional market if we're having those sorts of costs that they've got to pay up front?
Well, that is the true cost of the flooring, and that is the delivery of it, that is the installation of it, and it's a huge undertaking. So we've talked to the experts of what it costs to take like that. So when we originally were going to purchase the flooring, one, it came in way much higher than anticipated. 2, it was highly recommended, and these are from the experts out at SoFi Stadium, that it needs to be in a controlled environment, stored. And then he said the biggest thing of that is the labor that goes into install, take down, and like that. And what we're asking is, so we have such a quick turnover, is for him to do it at that time.
Well, Dr. Scott, I don't in any way question that whether you got the right deal and your expertise on whether the flooring is the right flooring, how it should be kept, and all that. What I'm trying to say is maybe, Mr. City Manager, this is a longer conversation down the road, but I think we need to look at, if I wanted to do the same event at Glover Stadium in Anaheim, am I going to face those same sort of costs? If I'm going to do it at other comparable venues, am I facing those same costs?
To answer the question specifically, so does that make us competitive? I'm not sure it makes us competitive, but what it does prove, and it has to be a level of discussion, is that's the consideration, right? The 118,000 and the 9,000 of staff time. That means whether the city looks to absorb the cost or we seek to get a promoter, that's a cost that has to be analyzed. And that's what this seeks to promote, right? Part of the discussion is exactly that. We keep talking about activating certain areas, right? One of the reasons why I supported again and recommended that we staff prove that discussion, what we did just 2 votes ago, right? this economic development component where we make sure we attract people to the downtown. We're trying to revive an area that we haven't activated for a long time, right? So that's the key when we share this evaluation. It doesn't get lost on me that some of the guarantees we have to provide is exactly that, right? We want to get with X promoter, right? Part of the discussion in the first meeting was say, okay, promoter X, it's $10,000 for staff time and $120,000 average for the covering. Period. Whether we like it or not, that's the level of discussion we're having. And this is exactly part of this proof of concept that we're trying to get at, right? From the staff perspective, this is what we're trying to present, a very fact-based, this is the key, this is the option, right? To the extent that we're sharing the risk, and I appreciate the councilmember's concerns. Councilmember Lopez is correct, we can't guarantee it, right? The only way we can do is help with the promotion, help with the ticket selling, right? The Fiestas Patrias, gave me that kind of perspective, right? We literally have 3,000 people on Saturday, 3,000 people on Sunday, more or less. You saw the apples we gave. Those are the kind of attraction that we're trying to get. Can we do better? Yes. This is what this proof of concept is seeking to do. We're not trying to be, misguided in the language. We're trying to provide a contract that presents very transparent perspective so we can analyze that. And this is the kind of discussion, right? The reality just, 2 weeks ago on changing the ability to sell a different type of alcohol. Again, it's because we're looking to move in a direction that activates an area and a discussion that since I've been an employee of the city, has always been a discussion. When are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? We're doing the lighting. We're adding the extra seating. This is another opportunity for us to discuss. And we lay it at the feet of the council members and the mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. I have one more question. That is, so when one fills out the form to rent out our stadium, is there anything on there that talks about political affiliation, any organizations that support or don't support them? Is that, if you could tell me what line that's on?
There isn't one at all.
So there isn't. So I don't
No.
have to declare that, a union or a political activist group is a part of the event, right? It's just simply what the event is, correct?
Correct. It's what the event is, what it entails of, how many people they're expecting, amenities and such like that.
But nothing political?
No, sir.
Okay. And I want to thank my colleagues for bringing up that the POA is a part of this, because I actually truthfully didn't know. I didn't know, because when I saw this item on the agenda, I thought, this is a great sounding event. I think it'll be successful. I looked at it as a mariachi festival. But it is funny, though, that I don't know, maybe about 6 months to a year ago, there were council members up here that were thumping their chest saying, every event is political, all these festivals are political. Remember that? Remember when you said that? They're all political. But all of a sudden today, because it's not your political group, now it's bad. That's kind of ironic. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you to my colleagues for asking all these wonderful questions. Mr. City Manager, you know that I've reached out to you for a long time to talk about the events process in the city's special events process. And I always think that, when we're talking about policies and processes in the city, there's always room to improve, and it's always with lived experience that we can work through those hurdles. Sometimes it makes sense as staff or as an internal team, but when it comes to third parties trying to go through the process, it can be difficult. So I really appreciate those questions. Definitely the issue about police staffing is something that I do get a lot, because it is something that can feel very unpredictable at the end of the day. And so we want to find ways to make that more predictable for our partners. I do want to say that I'm super excited about this event. I didn't know about it until it was on the agenda. And just looking at the possibilities of what we can do at the stadium. Look, guys, when we were talking about getting new flooring and these new chairs, and I was like, what are we going to do? Who's going to use it? What kind of events are we going to have here? And then I find out that this stadium is going to seat more people than the Pacific Amphitheater, where I got to see Trevor Noah. This is going to have more space. It's going to have better parking. It's going to have more immediate access. It's going to be more convenient for many people. It's going to be something that is going to help bring revenue here into the city. It's going to be something that's going to help our community partners have a great big event space that isn't a dirt lot. There is going to be an area where our schools and our community organizations can come together and really be a part of a place. And I believe that because we already call it the Santa Ana Stadium, because we already have Mater Dei and other teams play there, I really believe that we can make this another pillar of the opportunities and the offerings that the city of Santa Ana has. And so we've talked about economic development for a long time. When it comes to economic development, nothing is for sure, right? When you invest in the stock market, there's a risk of loss. When you invest in real estate, there's a risk of loss. And when you invest in something like this to see if we can actually hold these types of events with these types of demands, whether it's food vending, restrooms, flooring, music, there is always a risk of loss. But this is the time to do it. We have a few years until the sunset of Measure X. If we don't take the opportunity now, we are going to miss the boat. We have to see if this works, and if it doesn't work 100% the first time, we can tweak it for next year or for the next event. But if we don't try, we're gonna lose out on a potential revenue source that I think when we look back, we're gonna say, why didn't we try it? And it's because we were afraid to do so. I am confident in our staff, in our team. I know Power of One has been a great partner when it came to, I think it was 4th of July they were out there, and they've done other things with the city. So I really wanna see where this goes. And frankly, I'm just super excited to hear some mariachi. Someone give me a hat. I'm gonna be out there and I'm gonna be celebrating with our community. Last thing I will say is that these types of events that are targeted toward the core aspects of our community, our Latino community, our Asian American community, our Black community, anyone, particularly I think for me, having experienced Fiestas Patrias the way I did this past week or this past month, seeing how there's such a huge need of these types of celebrations, not just in Orange County, but throughout Southern California, for people to come together and experience it in a way where it feels like we're doing it in unison is incredible. And I think that Santa Ana could be at the forefront of that type of event, not just in the county, but in Southern California. But we have to take this first step. I think this is exactly it. So I will be voting wholeheartedly for this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmembers, Penalosa?
Thank you, Mayor Mesqua, and I want to thank the Parks and Rec staff for your work on this item over the last couple of months. Back in May, I was at our public library, our main library here on Dia de las Madres. I was there at 5 in the morning with Brian, our library director, if you recall, and Mariachi Real del Siglo, which is a Century High School mariachi band, was there playing all morning for Univision and whatnot, for Dia de las Madres. And some of the students they brought it up to me. They brought up the Mariachi Festival, which I hadn't heard of. I had no idea what it was. And they were like, oh yeah, we're working to be part of the Mariachi Festival in later this year. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but that sounds great. Let me know how I can support and help. So I was excited to see this youth showcase at the Mariachi Festival next month, hopefully. And we just got done with talking about ArtWalk and how we should incorporate SAUSD and SAUSD students. And here we have an event that's going to incorporate SAUSD and their mariachi and showcase their talent, give them the opportunity to play at our stadium, and also, at the same time, have an economic drive for our city, for our downtown. Another one. We have numerous economic drives for our city, which are great, and this would be just a new one that we could, as Mayor Pro Tem said, seize that opportunity and be able to activate our stadium. What we all talked about when we were approving the budget, how can we generate revenue? How can we activate our Santa Ana Stadium? I know that there's a couple other Santa Ana high schools, as well as St. Anne's, Santa Ana College and Godinez, and a couple other schools that are going to be showcasing their talent at this Mariachi Festival, which I'm very excited to see. And I'm excited for those students to be able to play at a stadium that they've only probably been to during a Friday night football game, or maybe once every 4 years for their high school graduation. They'll get to now play and showcase their talent through mariachi and have their families come and see them play their mariachi talent. So I'm excited for this. It's a great event. I wholeheartedly support it. It's a learning curve. maybe this one we won't see 100% of our revenue recuperated or our investment recuperated, but it gives us a way to improve for next year's event. And hopefully these events keep coming back. So I wholeheartedly support this item and looking forward to it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Becerra.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate some of my colleagues' comments on our stadium. Think about it. #1 high school football team in the nation, not in the county, not in the state, but the nation, plays at the Santa Ana Stadium. The oldest high school in Orange County plays at Santa Ana Stadium. Santa Ana College has won national championships playing in our stadium. We've hosted United States presidents, plural, in Santa Ana Stadium. And now we're adding yet another dimension to the stadium with Mariachi. This is a great, again, proof of concept. Let's see where it goes. I have faith it's going to be successful. I don't even understand why we're bringing it forward as a proof of concept, because that makes it sound like we're not sure if it's going to be successful. I think it's going to be fine, frankly. So rather than keep dragging this out and letting it devolve into a political discussion, I'll go ahead and move the item.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. There's 2 comments down here. Councilman Vasquez. I see it. That's why I'm calling on you.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about a mariachi festival in Santa Ana. And it's something that we need, and I'm excited for everybody to perform. But as I heard it, I really would wish there was a process where we would have an RFP. We would say, hey, we want a proof of concept. Who wants to do this? And we would get all these groups who would apply. And then we would send it either through the Arts and Cultural Commission, or we get to see it. And it would be a beautiful thing. And also, if we're paying $118,000 for a flooring, can we use it more than once? Friday and Saturday, Saturday and Sunday, Friday and Sunday, the cost would be half. So I would want to have more than one event on this time. I would want an RFP. I would want a process where we could move forward things. I would want to make sure that the feasibility of an organizer to attract people to pay for this event. So not having any of that, I will not be supporting this.
Mayor, I have one
I'm
question.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem is going to speak, and then I got to go to Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you. So when we had our agenda review, Mr. City Manager, I think this is the only item I asked you about, right? So please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that Power of One Foundation came to the city with an application for a special event back in the spring or winter. Is that correct?
Actually, January.
January, okay. So Power of One Foundation had the idea for a Mariachi Festival at the Santa Ana Stadium, correct?
Yes.
Power of One Foundation was the one who said, we're going to make this happen at the Santa Ana Stadium, is that correct?
Yes.
And the city staff was the one that said, this is a great idea, how can we partner? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. And so it's the city that is benefiting from the ideas and, I guess, hard work of the Power of One Foundation in this circumstance, correct?
Yes. It's the
And
city
we
trying-
are looking to find a way to partner so that we can all benefit financially from this adventure that they've come up with. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is not an event that the city said, hey, we're going to do it. We're just going to pick someone out of thin air to throw a mariachi festival. We saw an opportunity that someone had a great idea, said they want to use a venue that we hadn't started using yet for something like this, and we said, how can we work with you? How can we be a better partner? How can we, as staff, find ways to make revenue for the city without having to reinvent the wheel? I want to commend staff for that. You took a chance, an opportunity, and said, how do we work together and do something great in the city? So I just wanted to clear that record because I had the same questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lopez, and then we're going to take a vote. Councilmember Becerra, and then we're going to take a vote here.
Thank you. Again, I think we are going to benefit from this. I'll be there. I'm going to support the event. It sounds fun. And when I was listening to the council member speak, it reminded me, he brought up a really good point. It reminded me about why we've lost big productions in the city like OC Pride, right? When they got a bill that they had to pay $50,000 for PD, that wasn't an estimated cost that we could provide them because we didn't know what it would be, right? And that is why I'm assuming no specific dollar amount to that extent is being included, because you can't really predict how many officers you're gonna have, the amount of time, all of that. And that was one of the main issues with OC Pride, right? Getting that bill, being a small nonprofit, not being able to pay for it. So it was astronomical. So the question is, how were these flexibilities not exercised in the past, one, and two, because even our small neighborhood associations, right? They're made to pay permits, they're made to fill out X, Y, and Z paperwork. If somebody wants to rent our gazebo, we rent them, we charge them, right? Even residents. And so I just want to understand how we're picking what proposals are made to be, how we're making them to comply with our internal policies that the council has approved and which ones we're not. That is really also a big issue for me here that I need to understand, because when I hear from the community and they're telling me, look, we want to do this, but we need a permit. We need to pay the permit fees, right? Even at the smaller scale, we're making people do that, but a $9,000 permit fee we're waiving, we're going to absorb. That doesn't make sense. And I hope that you understand that. I hope the public understands that. There should be no reason why anyone here is insulting anyone for simply asking questions that are apparent once you read this report. Additionally, I think to sit up here and say this is a generator of economic development when we're all saying, well, we don't know if we're gonna make money, is not necessarily, you're not making money if you're losing money. And you need to make money to provide services that people demand from the city. Again, I'm gonna be supportive of the event with the caveat that we include language that all indirect costs are recuperated. And additionally, I think if I haven't confirmed with staff if you've done this or not, but notifying Wilshire Square about the event, because they always, when we have events at the bowl, their neighborhood always is just, oh, sorry, Washington. Thank you,
Yes.
Councilmember Washington.
Washington Square. So yes to all your points, yes to understanding. And so those concerns, as far as a sense of continuity, a reflection of how we approach policies and consistency. So the police cost is a perfect example, right? And so, yes, we can give you a blanket statement, right? If we say there's 3,000 people, and depending on the square footage, the area, and those are the type of formula that the chief is talking about. How do you articulate and how do you give a precise cost? There might be a different cost, for example, at 80 West, as a control area, we're giving the parking and the access and the components, as for example, at Centennial Park, right? So when we do an evaluation, that's the key. And then sometimes we go a little further in trying to help the promoters, then the groups, including the nonprofits. So do we need sworn officers? Can we do it with security guards at a lower cost, right? Those are the kind of discussions that we have as we get closer to the actual event and to the exact idea where we want to help then the person applying for this type of event be successful. In this case, this is what we keep using the word proof of concept, right? What are the costs? One of the first things we saw in the evaluation, once they came up with the idea, and again, this is since January, is one, what are our processes to do this? The cost for the covering of the actual turf as a minimum cost, whether we pay it or the promoter pays, the cost of staffing, as an example, the ability to sell a different type of alcohol, a different type of APC license. I mean, as the council member said, maybe have a 2-day event, right? Do we then, as a city, get our own ABC license, right? And do we establish our own promotional component? Those are the questions that, as we're going through this process, are being raised up. So if and when this event occurs, right, we're still going to have those level of discussions, because that is what we have to discuss and evaluate as we move forward if we're looking to activate the 80 West. You're not wrong, right? 6,500 at Pico Rivera, and they fill it out. Pacific Amphitheater in Costa Mesa, right, yeah. 8,500, and they fill it out, and they do it for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is the items that we're looking to do. The difference between, for example, the Pacific Gateway, we have to partner with Washington Square. We have to partner with the neighborhoods. And that's not just on benefit. We'll know that there'll be income generated to the parking structure. We know that the county may benefit also at the parking structure. And those are kind of unsolicited type of funding they earn that we don't know the numbers about. So those are the things that when we look at a project like this, we will evaluate and we will assess. And I am hoping you are successful, so would you generate? And again, the concept was very minimal in the sense proof of concept. We take the risk with the petitioner, and we make the earnings when they make the earnings. That's the potential aspect as we look and analyze the event.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I have not had an opportunity to speak yet. I think everybody's done their 3 rounds of counting here, and this has gone on pretty long. I just want to say thank you to the city staff. I know when this came about in January, I heard about it. I think it's going to be a great event if it does take place. You know, months ago when we were talking about the budget, a councilman member up here said, let's have an MMA event and fill the event, fill the Eddie Westfield, and we all nodded our heads, yes, like, yeah, let's do it. So we're not here, people say, like, don't be mean, don't call names, don't make it. It becomes political because it is a silly season of politics. I didn't even know POA was supporting it, but there are a lot of people that are supporting this event. And thank you, Councilman Penalosa, for bringing up Santa Ana Unified students. All of the schools in Santa Ana Unified that have mariachis will be playing during the day. And from what I saw on the flyer, correct me, Director Hawk, in the evening is when the charge, if you want to explain how this works, in the evening is the live concerts and food and alcohol. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so in the morning, it's community-based, all these competitions, it's free for everybody. They do that for a couple hours of morning, then once that's over.
That includes our children.
That includes the children, correct. After it's all closed out, we shut down the stadium, clear it out, and then it comes into the paid event of the night where you got some great talent coming in throughout the night. And then that's where they'll sell the alcohol, that's where they'll sell the food and all stuff like that. But the morning is traditionally for the community, for the unified, all the school districts that want to be involved, yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for clarifying that, and that's all I have for you. We make these things again at this time because we're, I don't even know how many days away from election. It becomes political. Let's just take that lens off and talk about how much, if we can generate revenue, how this will look to other people, to other cities, to other organizations that want to say, we want to do business with Santa Ana because they're opening the door for us. We want to go to Eddie Westfield and have a great soccer competition. We want to have an MMA fight. We want to have another concert. I saw a great Rolling Stones band on Saturday in one of our neighborhoods. We want them to come. We'll probably fill it up. I think, City Manager, you shared with me, we seat more people than the Orange County Fairgrounds. Is that correct?
We checked, and again, I think Pico Rivera has 6,500 sitting, and then the Pacific Amphitheater at the Orange County Fair is 8,500. We're at 9,000. With the 300 additional seating we're adding in the next couple of years, we'll have over 1,100, 1,200 seats, the lighting, the signage. And so for us, this is an opportunity in the next 2 years, to really activate it. But the comments don't get lost on me as far as the process is consistent, an RFP discussion, and evaluating the components. How do we make it more transparent and easier? This is what we're doing at this point. This is why we're bringing it to City Council.
And I think it's great that Mayor Pro Tem's question was that the Power of One Foundation applied in January. They applied for this event, like they do in other cities, Long Beach or wherever they have their other events. Nobody went out and sought them out. So it was them approaching us. And I don't care who's giving them money, police, fire, the Pope, Chispa, Voice of OC. I don't really care who's giving them money. And thank you, because I did not know POA, is sponsoring it. But I think what it is, it's going to be great for our community. And of course, I know that our city staff will notify the neighborhoods surrounding the area, as we always do. That is nothing new. We always do. And of course, you can't make everybody happy, but we do notify the neighborhoods. And so if we're going to sit up here and talk about let's generate revenue and let's do good business, this is also good business for downtown Santa Ana, for the merchants down there. And they've gone through heck with all the construction going down there. So I'm all about let's generate revenue. And this is not about who's friends with who. Because if I'm not mistaken, Mr. City Manager, I believe I asked you a question about a concert I heard about that was taking place, being run by Roman Reina and Suavecito and a councilman that was sitting up here, because one of the unions approached me and said, hey, we're giving $10,000. And I was a little concerned, like, hey, I don't know anything. Please go to Mr. City Manager or Ms. City Attorney, because I don't ask people for money. I'm not gonna ask you for $10,000 for any event. So I just wanna be clear on that. They came in January. They do their own. They asked. Santa Ana Unified students are going to be playing mariachis in front of their parents. It's going to be wonderful. What more could we ask for? And then in the evening, we're going to sell food, or they are going to sell food and some drinks if you drink, or soda pop. And we're going to generate some revenue, and we're going to throw some chancla and listen to some good music if it gets approved. This is not political. This is about generating revenue for our city, and again, putting Santa Ana on the map. That's what this is about. This is not about politics. And so if you don't understand that, there's a bit problem with that. So I will leave it at that. Councilman Becerra?
Thank you, Mayor. I think you summed it up perfectly. Shouldn't be about politics. It should be about generating revenue and utilizing the stadium to showcase our local talent. I just want to clarify that this motion going before us, this whole discussion about indirect costs, that seems a little too ambiguous. Maybe it's lost on some folks up here, but we're voting on a contract that was brought before us. I don't think it's really up to us tonight to start renegotiating something that is a proof of concept. This is not a development agreement. This is not something that, obviously there's already some ambiguities in here and some things that'll be determined after the fact. There's different scenarios in the staff report that talk about we may get our costs back, we may get a little more, even more than that, we'll see. So the motion on the floor, at least that I made, will be for what staff's presented to us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, and there's a second. Councilman Hernandez?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to thank my colleagues for the dialogue here. It's important that the council have an array of diverse opinions. I mean, all of us were elected so that we can have, robust discussions about protecting your resources in your community. As your council member, I'm always going to work to protect our taxpayer resources. When we had the Winter Wonderland that I fought for alongside Councilmember Becerra, back in the COVID pandemic, we introduced a Winter Wonderland that was costly, and our hopes were to generate revenue by bringing families out here to ice skate. And many families made beautiful memories with their loved ones, but unfortunately, we had to make a tough decision to move past that event because it was costing us upwards of $900,000, and we were barely generating $100,000. We made a fiscally responsible decision to move away from that event. As a council member that loved that event and would go with his daughter and saw many families enjoy that, it was a tough decision for us to make, but I had to make a sound decision for the betterment of our resources in the city. As a council member, I'm looking at this event, and as fantastic as the partnerships are, the city will not recover our costs unless this event generates $530,000, $374. That is the only exception that exists for the city to recover 100% of those costs. At that point, the city will then be reimbursed for the $118,548 for flooring. Then we would also be given $9,005 for the Eddie Westfield Stadium at Santa Ana that we would have normally been charged. And at that point, we're spending more money to generate, the bulk of the money that is going to be generated is going to be the foundation. If this event generates $775,950 of revenue, as estimated by the foundation, the city would receive the same $118,000 cost recovery plus $9,005 for Eddie Westfield, and plus a potential $49,115. That would be the maximum money that we could generate from this partnership. It's not a great partnership for us. That's the concern that I have. The other concern is that this partnership is bringing us a contract 20 days before this event. This event is on October 13th. The concern that I have is we're spending $100,000+ of monies that do not belong to us in a city where we paid out $600,000+ for, unfortunately, liabilities related to some of my colleagues on this council. I have to be fiscally conservative about this approach to this event. The only condition as to how I will support this event, I'll ask for an amendment from Councilmember Becerra, is if we report back to the public and the council the earnings of this event at the meeting on October 19th. If you're willing to accept that amendment, I am happy to vote in favor of this item.
Oh, Councilmember Hernandez, I like the idea. I would ask staff, is that a reasonable turnaround? I think what Councilmember Hernandez is asking for should be brought back as a receive and file, but what's the timeline that you think would be appropriate?
I'm not sure we're going to be able to collect it right away, but 2 weeks after that?
That would suffice.
Right.
I think as long as we can engage in the best practices of transparency, I think everyone wins here. I think if we can push it out to the meeting at the beginning of November, it shows in good faith a partnership with this foundation. It shows that we're supporting a proof of concept that I think will be great, but it also shows that we're taking these partnerships and transparency very serious, and I think everyone wins then.
So, as staff reminded me, it's part of the contract. We do have an audit component, so January, even if it seems longer, it allows a better opportunity for us to really evaluate and do a complete audit, and it is mentioned in the actual contract itself.
As long as you'd be willing to include that amendment,
So
Councilmember Becerra.
I'll amend my motion to include that audit as a receive and file in whenever our meeting is in January.
Right, and again, I do want to commend my staff for reminding me that, and this goes back to this whole component, right? We understand the unconventional way of coming into this type of agreement, but again, right, is we're sharing in the responsibility with the applicant, but we also want to be conscious that's the level of transparency we wanted to have. And that's the key, right?
Councilmember Pelosi, do you accept the amendment?
Yes.
Did you have a comment before we vote? We're going to vote now after this.
I just wanted to state for the record that I agree with Councilmember Lopez on the PD cost. I'm very supportive of having PD present at all our events, but we got to be very upfront and transparent with these nonprofits of what that cost is going to be. I agree with my colleague. I know that the OC Pride, that's why they went away. It's because the surprise bills after the event is not cool. I mean, I get it, it's real cost, but we got to figure out a way where we could know the cost and be able to notify whoever the group is putting the event together upfront of what that's going to be. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, let's prepare to vote, please.
Can you read the motion out loud, please?
Yes, this is a motion by Councilmember Becerra, seconded by Councilmember Penaloza, to approve the recommended actions for item number 12, with the addition of a receive and file of the audit at the January 2025 City Council meeting.
Got it. I'll make a sub-motion to approve the item as recommended by staff, including item 1, 2, and 3, with the condition that all fees, like the turf fee, and all indirect costs are paid back to the city. Because again, I want this to be economically feasible so that there can be a benefit to the public. Because again, as we all have agreed on, there is no true transparency on what the true cost of the event is going to be. And I will also include the recommendation by Councilmember Hernandez to include a detailed receive and file by the end of the date that's in the contract, which I think is January 2025.
I'll second your motion, Councilmember.
Mayor, I have a question. So when we say indirect costs, so one moment we're saying, acting chief, give us the exact costs, Director Scott, give us the exact costs, but then we want to build into the contract indirect costs, which is this big ambiguous, we don't know what those costs are. This is a proof of concept, in case that word has been lost on everybody. It's proof of concept. We need to see what those costs are going to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the idea here, right? To see what those are. We may profit, we may not, but we're taking a risk on an application, thanks Mayor Pro Tem, who called out that they applied to us, hence why we didn't have an RFP. So when you say indirect costs, that seems like a very open-ended thing that I will not be supporting.
Okay, thank you.
No, and I will not support it either, because if we're going to start talking about turf coverage and, having them cover, again, they applied in January. I think our turf is very important. Santa Ana Unified has graduations every year, and we do not cover our turf. And the young ladies have big, giant high heels on. I've been to many triple-digit, double-digit graduations, and I've never seen our turf covered, but I've seen a lot of high heels. So let's be fair here. So again, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion and a sub-motion, and then we're going to go on from there.
So the current motion on the floor is the sub-motion by Councilmember Lopez, seconded by Councilmember Hernandez, to approve the recommended actions for item number 12 with the addition of all fees and indirect costs being recuperated by the city and the receive and file audit in January 2025.
Madam City Clerk, can you do a roll call? It's just easier, please.
Councilmember Becerra?
No.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez?
Yes.
Councilmember Penaloza?
No.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fan?
No.
Mayor Mesqua?
No.
Vote is 3 ayes, 4 nays. Ayes by Councilmembers Hernandez, Lopez, and Vasquez. Motion fails. So we revert to the original motion on the floor, which is by Councilmember Becerra, seconded by Councilmember Penaloza, to approve the 3 recommended actions for item number 12 with the audit report to be presented as a receive and file in January 2025. Councilmember Becerra?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Councilmember Lopez?
Yes.
Councilmember Penaloza?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fan?
Yes.
Mayor Mesqua?
Yes. Isn't that
Vote is
beautiful?
7 ayes, no nays. Motion carries.
All right, let's go on now to item 18, please.
Item 18 is an item from staff.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I'd like to call up Nabil Saba, the Executive Director. He is going to be loading a PowerPoint presentation to walk you through the Standard Avenue and McFadden Avenue Bikeways project.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. Item 18 on the agenda is to authorize a contract with Vido Sumrich, general engineering contractor, to construct a bike lane or lanes on McFadden and Standard Streets.
I'm sorry, could you talk into the mic closer, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
The project's limits are on Standard from Warner to Second and on McFadden from Harbor to Grand. The work includes the construction of bike lanes, street paving, landscaping, drainage, traffic signals, signage, and striping. The project work will be divided into 4 separate phases. Project history. I would like to start with some history on this project. Planning documents were approved in 2019 and 2022, which included the complete street plan, active transportation plan, and the general plan. There were 17 community meetings throughout the planning and the design process starting in 2016. The grant for the project were awarded in December 2019. Coordination with the railroad service proved to be a challenge that delayed the preparation of the construction documents, and the project was advertised twice. Project funding. There are multiple funding sources for the project. They include active transportation grants, gas tax, area fee, transportation area fees, trench cut fees, Measure M2 fees, and Measure X general fund city funds. Some of the project benefits include, aside from construction of bike lanes, the improvements include paving, upgrade of traffic signals, bus pads, ADA ramps, pedestrian crossings, and many traffic calming features. This is an example of the improvement on Standard Street. This is how Standard and McFadden intersection would look like. Like I mentioned, as mentioned before, the work with the Railroad Authority began in June 17 of 2021. The design work required a design agreement with the Railroad Service, which was approved on August 13, 2021. After multiple rounds of review and coordination, the final engineering plans were submitted to the Railroad Authority on March 8 of 2023. We did not receive a response from the railroad until June 7 of 2023, when the city was informed the schedule for receiving plans to include in the city's bid package would be late about 4 months. At that time, we immediately notified Caltrans of the delay from the Railroad Authority and began the process to extend the construction award deadline. Construction award deadline was extended by Caltrans to September 30 of 2024. We received the final plans from the Railroad Authority to include in the city bid document on April 11 of 2024. This is a picture of the current condition of McFadden and the railroad crossing. This is a copy of the improvement plans for the McFadden Railroad crossing. This is an example on how the final improvement would look like. This is in the city of Santa Ana at Lion Street and the railroad crossing. Contract and bidding. We originally advertised the project on May 11 of 2024, about a month after received the package from the Railroad Authority. Bids were received were over the engineer's estimates and the budget. The project scope was modified and was rebid. The new bids opened July 9, 2024. Due to the bid protest and counter-protest between the lowest and the second lowest bidder, staff determined to rebid once more to avoid potential litigation and missed grant deadline. The contract document clarified the project and was rebid. The bid results currently had no bid issues, only was within, and now is within the engineer's estimate, and the lowest bidder and the contractors that are a strong team that have delivered number of critical projects for the city. Recommended contractors. We recommend awarding the contract to Vido Samrich as a prime contractor. Vido Samrich has worked great with the city of Santa Ana in the past. They are reliable, responsive, and provide quality work. These are examples of Vido's work in the city of Santa Ana. Again, to minimize the traffic impacts of the project will be divided into 4 phases with time limits for each phase. One phase will have to be completed before the start of the next. These are the order of the phasing. Standard, first to McFadden, then McFadden to Warner, then from Standard from first to McFadden, and on Standard from McFadden to Warner, and then for McFadden, it was Harbor to Bristol, and then Bristol to Grant, and the balance of the traffic signals. The project should be completed in June of 2026. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm open for any questions you may have.
Please raise your mic if you have any questions. Seeing none. Is there a motion? Yes, Councilman Penaloza.
Thank you, Mayor Mesqua. Thank you, Director Saba, for the presentation. The only questions that I had, one of them was related to the time sensitivity of why you're bringing a contract to us before a September 30th deadline.
Right.
What would happen if we don't approve this by the September 30th deadline?
We, like I mentioned in my presentation, we did receive an extension from Caltrans. However, the extension expires this month, September 30th, 2024. If the project is not awarded at this meeting tonight, we will have to return back the grant funding that we've received for the ATP project. In addition, we most likely have to pay the design cost of about $1 million back to Caltrans.
Okay, so did we expend all of our extensions with Caltrans?
I believe so, yes.
So how many times was this extended?
It was extended only once.
So Caltrans only allows one extension?
I believe so, yep. Rudy agrees, yes.
Okay. You know, because I see things like this come before us every time, especially from Public Works. Oh, this permit expired yesterday, this permit expiring tomorrow. Oh, we got to do it by this in 3 days from now, or else we're going to lose this funding. And it's a frequent pattern that I don't understand why it just happens so often. But you know, I would hope that it doesn't happen anymore. Because if this, as great as this project is, and as many years that it's been in the works, this project needs 5 votes. I mean, I can't predict the future or how my colleagues will vote. We all love public works projects up here. We all love to see our infrastructure be invested in.
Correct.
But what if those 5 votes wouldn't be there? You would now be risking losing millions of dollars that we would have to give back to Caltrans. So, I mean, that is a dangerous game to play as the Director of Public Works. I mean, it truly is. I don't know who within Public Works is to point the finger to. I know you mentioned Union Pacific Railroad Company as having constant delays, and you titled that slide beautifully. You said, challenges with Union Pacific Railroad Company. There are 100 other challenges with the Union Pacific Railroad Company that I would hope we learn to mitigate first before we invest $25 million along the same stretch of road. Now, the other question I have is, do we have plans, and Mr. City Manager, this will probably be for you, to mitigate the constant vagrancy and issues that we see spill over onto Standard Avenue from the railroad company? Because if I drive down Standard every single day, and it is troubling what I see on Standard today, what I see at Madison Park, what I see at all the strip malls. Somebody just got shot 2 nights ago at the Mariscos place right there on McFadden and Standard, and I feel for our new park that's coming there, because I see the same issues that are going to plague these areas until we get a hold of this railroad issue. So, what plans do we have, Mr. City Manager, to address the issues that we're seeing today?
So the answer is yes. We are looking to mitigate the component with Union Pacific. So we are trying to engage them in more communication to ensure that they respond to maintain their property as private property owners. We are looking to have more police enforcement, unfortunately, as part of the response to working with them. And we're also with the city working with the city attorney's office to see if we can have other venues and components to work with the business community to also seek some other legal aspects that they can also take advantage of. That's the key. But the reality is, as a private property owner, and which has been related to us many, many times, is that there's an expectation for local enforcement to be more involved. This is what you're seeing there at this point. Since we've been appointed as city manager, you see us proactively clean the bus stops on First Street. The main arterials, First Street, 17, Grand, Standard, Harvard. I'm missing one. Bristol and Main Street, actually missed 2. Right, that's the key, looking to make sure that the quality of life components, making sure that the people riding the bus, whether it be the students or workers go to and from work, are sitting and clean bus stops. No different than working with Union Pacific and doing more enforcement. Right, we had police officers literally patrol Union Pacific area Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right, to ensure that the cleanliness and the lack of vagrancy and transparent and transits in that area was more addressed. And we're looking to monitor that. That's the key. So when we say we're shifting resources, we're shifting very precise, very direct resources to certain areas to ensure that those areas and that impact doesn't transcend into the community, both the parks and the nearby neighborhoods, including Delhi and the Hotel Terrace area.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. The other question I had, and this, I don't know who wants PD or Public Works, but we're going to be adding the marked parking spaces along Standard Street. I believe it's 60-something and then 20-some on McFadden. Do we have plan for enforcement on that? Is it just going to be a free-for-all parking? Is it going to be a marked, just open street parking? Are we going to have timed parking? What kind of parking enforcement are we going to have in the area?
Parking on McFadden will be open street parking, not residential, not permit parking, but the enforcement would be, of course, done by PD, and I take it that they will do a good job enforcing it, absolutely.
And we'll have street sweeping days?
Absolutely.
On McFadden?
McFadden.
And Standard?
And Standard.
Okay. Last question, when is the First Street underpass construction wrapping up? Along where it goes underneath the UP?
The First Street underpass?
Yes. When is that wrapping up?
It's in their final stages of putting the boulders up right now. The concrete work has been done. What's remaining is to do some drainage up on Hathaway, the cul-de-sac. So to answer your question, I would say between 2 months.
So the First Street construction project that's happening right now is going to finish in 2 months?
Yes, sir.
So before the end of the year, it will be completed?
Yes, sir.
So that's a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And the construction on Warner widening between between Standard and Main Street, when is that wrapping up?
Sure. The Warner project has been experiencing delays because of the undergrounding through Edison and also Verizon. We have been reaching out to both Edison and Verizon to allow for the project to proceed for the undergrounding. Our contractor has done all what he can in terms of street improvement, drainage and water line, sewer line improvement in that section. However, we are really pressing Verizon to execute an agreement, a shared conduit agreement with Edison, and that's been taken very long time for them to execute that agreement to allow Edison and Verizon to work together to underground the utilities on both on the transmission and the distribution power lines.
So how and when can we anticipate that agreement between those private companies be completed?
Rudy will be more.
Point of order. Is Warner on this agenda?
Warner is not on the agenda. It's a question about status.
Can we stick to the agenda?
No, Councilmember Vasquez, this is related to the construction scope along Standard, because the Standard is between Warner and McFadden.
That's why I didn't say anything. It's about this construction.
Yeah, so it's related on when are we going to start construction until other projects wrap up that are sandwiching the corridor.
So you've gone over your 3 minutes, so let's wrap it up. So you can come back around.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Rudy?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We have been, as our directors communicated, been working with Verizon on a daily basis for the past 4 to 5 months now. They, to be blunt, fumbled the football on this one and have caused a series of delays on this undergrounding. We've been told as of today that in 2 weeks they will finalize their agreements with Edison and they can now actually move to construction. I will believe it when I see it, frankly. That construction work to underground the lines and take down the poles will be about 3 to 6 months. So unfortunately, the answer to the question, when will Warner's work be complete, realistically takes us into summer of this upcoming year.
Okay, so the answer is that we're going to have overlapping construction projects along Standard between First and Warner.
Yes.
Okay, and see, and that's what I try to, and that's why it's related, Councilmember Vasquez, please pay attention. If we would to schedule these projects so that they don't, or stay on top of these contractors, I don't know what we can do, but it seems that we have overlapping construction, which is great. Like I said, I want to see these dollars invested into our infrastructure, but when you're ripping up the same quadrant of our city all at the same time, and, you know, people that used to take Warner are now taking Edinger, the Standard to Edinger, or Standard to St. Andrew because the traffic on Warner is so bad because of the construction. Now you're going to have Standard ripped up and First Street ripped up and McFadden ripped up. And I know it's different phases, but that phase calendar that you showed, I really am going to hold you to it.
Okay.
And I hope that the public saw that calendar, and I don't like that we didn't have the PowerPoint presentation distributed to us, but can you email that timeline to all of us, please, with the different phases?
For sure.
Okay, with that, Mayor, I will make a motion to approve this item.
I have a question. Thank you. Let me just, you may want to stay. Can you go back to the slide where you're showing the phases, please? And thank you for making the comment. We need to pay attention so we understand what we're talking about. So go back to the slide, Nabil, where you're showing. So phase one, Standard from McFadden, November of this year to February of 25. Phase two, Standard to McFadden to Warner. Exactly what Councilman Penaloza was talking about, March to June. McFadden to Harbor to Bristol from June to September. McFadden from Bristol to Grand and balance of traffic signals from October to June. So whoever wants to answer the question, how often do we finish these projects on time? So I've only been sitting here a year and it seems like 20 years, but I've only been sitting here a year and 8 months, I believe, 8.5 months. And I've heard Councilman Penaloza bring this up many, many times already. And I'm not happy by the fact that we're waiting, Mr. City Manager, till what day are we gonna lose this money if you don't get 5 votes?
September 30th.
September 30th, which is when?
It's in a few days.
How many days, Nabil?
Let me do the math.
7 days?
Couple of weeks, yeah, or maybe a week.
No, not a couple of weeks, 7
week.
days, so.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know who wants to answer the question, but maybe you can, Rudy. How often, and not necessarily because of your work, city staff, it could be Verizon, it could be UP, it could be a lot of different reasons. How often are we on schedule? Because as Councilman Penaloza talks about, Bristol's been happening since he was in diapers. So can you share a little bit, please?
Sure. We, in the last few years, have been very active, as you all know. Everybody sees it and you feel it in the city, right? I feel it. We have in the neighborhood of 40 to 60 construction projects active, from parks to streets to you name it, right? The projects that don't finish on time are usually the ones that cause the most pain. I don't have an exact figure for you. I will say, I would say over 50% of the projects do complete on time. There are this is just kind of guessing here, 25% feels right as far as those are the projects that run into delays, and they happen to usually be the ones that have more attention on them, the Warners, and we don't have Bristol actively in construction now, but it does tend to be some of these larger projects that run into delays because of X, Y, or Z. What we do have is a committed staff to try and work with the contractors to get creative on how to get them to the finish line. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the contractor that we have in our low bid processes. And I don't want to say too much publicly as to the Warner one, but we are having major issues with our contractor there.
So thank you. I completely avoid Warner. I go around. So lately I've been hearing from the constituents. As you know, I'm out everywhere, and every weekend I have an event somewhere with people. I'm in the market, or I'm at a family event, and I hear the same thing, as I've shared with Nabil, but that's a different subject, so I won't bring it up for a point of order, but about the ball belts and the roundabouts, but that's a different one. But what I always hear about is construction. it takes a long time, Mayor. You guys are digging up the whole city, and when is it ever going to stop? So it's almost like one gentleman said this weekend, you dig up, you cover, you dig up, you cover, you dig up, you cover. And he was in the business, so he was explaining it to me very clearly. He knew, it sounded to me like he knew what he was talking about. So my concern, if you go back to that slide, please. I'm sorry, Daniel, you raising your hand at me? Oh, okay. I'm sorry, he raised his hand. So I was like, you have a question, Daniel, please? Sorry. Can you bring that slide back? So again, I don't know, Rudy, or, and I know you live in the city, right? So you experience what we experience, and I appreciate that you live here, and thank you. And so I don't know if you're as frustrated as we are sometimes. You don't need to answer that, okay? But so if you look at, again, phase one, we can get it done, Nabil, by February of 2025? Because I'm not sure I'm going to vote for this, only because, and I'm just one vote, because I really have a hard time. I understand we could lose money. Do I want us to lose money? No, I do not. But I really take to heart what Councilman Penalosa said, because he said it multiple times up here, and sometimes he's really gentle about how he says it, and sometimes he's really firm about, like, you bring something to us when the money is about to be taken away.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear on this. So we have 7 days. If you don't get the 5 votes, in 7 days, you lose this money.
If I may.
Sure, please.
So just in terms of, and I fully understand what you're telling me, right? It feels like we're putting you in between a rock and a hard spot in terms of voting on this one and the timing. That was not our intention. We were ready a year ago to go with this, but the delays with the railroad caused us issues. Even after we worked out these delays with the railroad, we put this thing out to bid in, I believe, May 6th. So our intent was to get it to you. Yes, it still would be kind of a little bit late, but a month or two before a deadline. Through the bid process, we experienced some additional issues and protests and counter protests. So there's been a lot of reasons why we're here today. I'm happy that we are here today, and you do have an opportunity to hopefully approve this. But I just want to clarify that there were a number of reasons that kind of got us circumstantially to where we are today. In terms of getting this project complete, we learned a whole lot of lessons, and I don't want to speak too negatively, but our friends in OCTA with the OC streetcar, we learned lessons about making sure we have controls in contracts that don't allow for our city to be torn up from end to end with no end in sight. So in this project specifically, because we saw, it's a large segment. We're doing McFadden from one end of the city to the other, standard from top to bottom. So purposefully, we built in this contract, thou shalt not move on to the next segment until we're done with one segment. Now, these dates, Mayor, are estimates. After, if council approves this, we have a kickoff meeting where their contractor they will provide us their baseline schedule, their timing for this. This is staff's guess right now as to how many months each phase should take. There's a total time length of working days for the entire project, and we didn't want to restrict the contractor as to how many days they had for any particular phase. It's just, if you take a long time for the first one, boo on you, because now you have a very, very short window for your subsequent phases. So I just want to put that out there to be very transparent. These are estimated timeframes, but the contractor will be controlled. They will start on standard from First and McFadden, and they will not move on to the next phase until they've substantially completed that work.
No, I appreciate that, and thank you, Rudy, for that. It's very interesting that you brought up OCTA. I've been sitting there since January, and there was Councilmember Lopez before me, and then previous Mayor Sarmiento. And we're going to have a meeting about OCTA, because I had a briefing today about the trolley, and they said some interesting things that I want to clarify, Mr. City Manager, about who is responsible for the delay in this project. And so before I say it publicly, I want to have a meeting so we could talk about it. Because I think a lot of times you are held up by other groups. I would hope that any contractors that we've had problems with, or have had problems or they do not work at the level that we want them to work at, then we are not working with them again so that we don't have these delays, because it really affects our constituents. I'm sure you all hear it, those of us that live here, we hear it all the time about the roads, they're so difficult, the construction, when is it going to end? It's kind of like the running joke on social media, like Councilman Penaloza says, oh yeah, there's been construction in Santa Ana since I was born. And I know that we need it, but I'm not a fan of project running at the same time, multiple projects, because it does cause a lot of traffic and problems in our city. So I'll leave it with that. Councilman Becerra, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I share Councilmember Penaloza's concerns when it comes to the hurry up and approve this or else we lose money. And by the way, we brought this to you 2 days before it was due. But once you said the magic words Union Pacific, the skies opened up, and I understand. They've been very difficult to deal with on a whole variety of issues. So I think on this one, I can definitely say that I sympathize with you on this. So I'll be supporting the item. One thing I want to make sure, though, and this is something that frustrates me across a lot of the road projects in the city, is notification of the road closures and the lane reductions. I can't tell you how many times I've been in a hurry and I turn onto Bristol, and let's just say I'm less than happy when I get to a certain point when I see construction, because not because I'm seeing construction, that's always a good thing because we're improving our city, but it's not knowing about it because I have a variety of other options to take. But if I don't know that there's construction on Bristol, then obviously I get stuck in that trap. So I would like, Mr. City Manager, I'd like you to work with your team to make sure that we do have ample notification, because it is frustrating for all of our residents to get caught in that. I do want one clarification, though, from staff, and that is Councilmember Penaloza brought up Warner and Standard. So will the construction actually be overlapping, or is it going to end and then re-begin again?
So if I understand the question, our current Warner improvement project goes from Main to about Kilson, plus or minus, which is a couple blocks short of Standard.
Okay.
When Vito Smargic on this project works from McFadden to Warner on Standard, they will not be, overlapping in each other's space.
And I'm asking that just because really the fundamental thing is if you're going to dig up an intersection, do it once, not 2, 3, or 4 times. So if there's a way to do it all at once to make sure that those improvements align at the same time, that's what I think everybody would appreciate. So that's why I want to make sure that we're not going to dig up the intersection, see it nice and smooth, only to see a jackhammer out there a week or 2 or a month later. So are we going to see those intersections dug up twice?
No.
Perfect. Great. Thank you very much.
So, Mayor.
Say that one more time. Did you say no?
I said no, Mayor.
Thank you.
So,
Yes, Mr.
Mayor,
Supervisor.
no difference. And I do applaud both the Executive Director, Nabil, and our City Engineer, Rudy's diplomatic way and the professionalism. So, one, we do commit not to bring this type of contracts anymore, this hurry up and vote type perspective. In fact, the fact that we had the meeting today kind of helped us have this evaluation because you weren't going to see it last week. But let me be more succinct. We're also looking to engage the city manager's office in communication with the government affairs folks, with Edison, our partners, Verizon, OCTA, because that is part of the issues, right? We have a system and a program where we partner with them to engage in this type of street improvements, and then there's items underneath that requires their involvement and their same sense of urgency. And so we need to nurture those relationships a little better. They need to understand that their delays have an impact independent of Union Pacific. I'm talking about Edison also, like I said, Verizon, anybody else, the gas company sometimes, Spectrum, right, the cable company. And so that's what you see, because I hear the same things. I live in the city too, so I've popped the tire here and there sometimes. But that's the key, right? So for us, that is the key that we're looking to focus. And so you'll see that type of engagement, and you'll notice, because you'll get the calls, I'm hoping, for somebody to mitigate. When they got the calls from the city manager's office saying, we're very frustrated for your inability to move faster on this type of programs and planning effects.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. I did ask Rudy, I know when we met Rudy, about sending out like a postcard.
Already in the works.
you're in the works to residents that would do,
Right.
like, I know on Civic Center, I met with them and remember we talked about, Rudy, that they
Yes.
didn't know about I was like, what? It's gonna go down to just 2 lanes and so there's some concern. So the areas that we're doing construction, you'll be
Yes.
sending out postcards.
We already have a template, so we're working, and we're probably going to exercise the same type of area distribution of information like we do with the planning department, the 1,000 feet component. I
Thank
figure
you.
if it works in planning, we should do it with public works.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the last couple months that when we ask for things, you're moving on them, things are getting done with you, with your leadership and Sylvia's and the staff, and so thank you, I really appreciate that. Can we get a motion and move on, please?
I already motioned, Mayor.
Did we have a second?
But I just had one last question.
Sure, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Does this project's scope include lighting on the McFadden Street Bridge
No, it doesn't include street lights,
at all?
not in this project.
Okay, because I know I've brought it up to past city manager and you as well, Director Saba, years ago, not recently, about lighting on McFadden Street Bridge. Right now, there is no lighting at all, zero. If you drive down McFadden over the Santa Ana River, it's pitch black. There's absolutely no lighting, no decorative lighting, no lighting from years ago. It's just dark. And a couple students years ago at the POW Center on McFadden came up to me and said, "Hey, if I could ask you for something, it would be for lighting on McFadden over the bridge because at 5, now when it gets dark at 5 p.m. next month, it's pitch black." And so I would amend my motion to make sure that there's lighting incorporated onto the McFadden Street Bridge because right now there's none. So if I could, Rudy, would that be possible?
Yes, it would.
Okay, so I will amend my motion to ensure that there's also lighting installed on the McFadden Street Bridge. And I don't recall off the top, I don't believe it's like First Street. I don't believe it's a decorative bridge, but whatever we can do to make sure that that lighting is aesthetically pleasing to that area, I would appreciate that. That is the only question I had, Mayor. I would hope that the notifications, I'm happy you brought up the postcards, that they're sent out at the beginning of each phase.
Sure.
Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, to the surrounding areas of what is happening. And if there's delays, I think that's also the biggest problem too. It's not we understand there's delays, but nobody ever says anything. We think that going to the Delhi Neighborhood Association meeting, to the 3 people that are there, one of them's me, to tell them, hey, Warner is delayed. That's not enough. I try to do my best with my network and my social media profiles. We all do up here, but us as a city actively engaging our residents and letting them know what's happening, why it's still, delayed, why it's still not completed, that goes a long way. So if we could work on that, I'd appreciate it. That's it, Mayor. That's my motion.
Councilman Becerra, you accept the amendment?
I guess so.
You guess so. All right, let's prepare to vote, please. Madam City Clerk, go ahead.
A motion by Councilmember Penaloza, seconded by Councilmember Becerra, to approve the 6 recommended actions for item number 18 related to the Standard Avenue, McFadden Avenue Bikeways projects, including an amendment to install lighting on the McFadden Street Bridge.
Councilman Penaloza? Oh, there you go.
The vote is 7 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Ward 1 thanks you.
Mayor, the next item is item 19, which was pulled by Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Lopez. Do you wish to hear a staff report? Or you have a specific question?
I don't. I mean, I read the staff report, so I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's I think 26 properties being brought up by staff that you want to Z exempt, and all the properties are very different. Some of them are larger, some of them are a funky shape, so I understand that it really limits the possibilities of what staff can do with the property. However, some of them are shared by the city, some of them are private, some of them are solely owned by the city, some of them also there's a parcel that appears to cross 4 different homes. And so I would be willing to support a case-by-case exemption from staff. And I know that some amendments have possibly, if I'm not mistaken, already been pushed through for the Surplus Land Act. And so I would suggest that staff bring those back, the ones that have already qualified to be exempt, because it's unclear to me why these 26 properties specifically.
Mayor, council members, thank you for the opportunity. As you see in the staff report exhibit, these 26 parcels that the city technically owns, some of them appear very normal, right? There's, let's say, a couple on Euclid that, very nice square kind of shape. Others are very odd, little slivers. Somehow we own part of somebody's backyard. These are things that over the decades, the city has ended up with these remnant parcels. Councilmember Lopez, the one specifically you're talking about that covers 4 properties, it is an old defunct water well from, a bygone era that the city inherited, right? And we own technically the real estate. What we want to do is get out of the business of owning and being liable and responsible for these various, remnant, for city purposes, useless lots, and transfer them to the adjacent owners, or when more appropriate, sell to the, put it out on the market to the general public. So the intent really here is for Public Works to really offload from a liability perspective a lot of these slivers of land that no one, just from, driving by it, would you guess, oh, this is actually city property, right? And that's really what this request here is for the council to approve going through the Surplus Land Act process, and then we go through the hard work of reaching out to these individual neighbors or the public or what have you to say, hey, how would you like to formally buy this sliver you've actually built over?
And so would you say that then it's for the purpose of selling it to the general public?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Selling the parcels to the general public?
There are some parcels that are more able to do that, right? So I point to a couple of examples on Euclid, which seem very independent on their own. There are others that are really, 400 square feet and attached to somebody's side yard, and really those, a lot of the ones we're proposing make more sense because of their size and shape, and to negotiate with the adjacent property owners to see which adjacent property owner would like to take official ownership of that land.
Yeah, and I think we've done that in the past. I've been supportive. I would be supportive again. For me, I do have reservation about just approving an exemption on all 26. I would prefer a case-by-case basis, specifically when we know that a homeowner can afford to buy the property from the city, which I think is important. And also, I would love to know what a surplus land, obviously owned by the city, is generating any money currently now that is being used. You probably are not going to be able to give me that a response. I recognize that. But again, this is why I'm not jumping to support the recommendation of staff, and I would be, again, supportive of case by case, and also taking on the ones that have been exempt already by the new amendments to state law that have happened, because it might be more than the 26, some of the majority on this list. It might be, it might not be, but I don't know that specifically off the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And don't worry, Rudy, you're good. First of all, thank you, staff, for bringing this item forward. A couple of years ago, we had some of these remnant properties exactly like what's in the staff report on the north side of a couple of homes. Let's see, it'd be right on the south edge of the Alton Bike Trail. And traversed a couple of properties, made no sense whatsoever to do anything other than offer them up to the adjacent properties, right? It's just a natural extension of their backyard. Staff went through the process, brought it before council, went to the owners. I think we no longer are in possession of those as a city. So what does that mean? Did we score big? Did you guys get the big bucks out of it? No, but we also escaped liability. We escaped all the unnecessary attention that the city would have to pay to a property maybe the size of my space up here on the dais. So I'm ready to go forward with this item as is. As far as this case-by-case basis, I thought staff did a great job of showing each of the properties in here, and the majority of them are tiny little slivers that really the city needs to unload, and they should be unloaded to the adjacent property owners. It makes no sense. I'll tell you right now, if one of those slivers was behind my house, I wouldn't want an RFP to see if somebody else was going to buy a landlocked piece of dirt right behind my property. So it just seems kind of silly that we're even debating this up here. So I'll go ahead and move the item as is.
I'll second. Let's prepare to vote, please.
A motion by Councilmember Becerra, seconded by Mayor Amezcua, to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Santa Ana declaring various properties as exempt surplus land, directing the city manager to follow the procedures set forth in the Surplus Land Act, California Government Code Section 54220 et sec, as amended for their disposition, and determining that the action is exempt from CEQA. The vote is 6 ayes, 1 nay. Nay by Councilmember Lopez. Motion carries. And Mayor and City Council, that concludes the items pulled from the consent calendar.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to public hearing. Before public hearing, item number 23, Madam Clerk, please provide instructions to, well, we're not having public comments, so I'm going to skip that.
Mayor, for public hearings, we do have to have public
I'm sorry.
comments.
I was listening to the city attorney. She said we were not, but we are for public hearings. Perfect. I apologize. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
For public hearings, yes, but no need to make the announcement as we have no participants via Zoom today.
Okay, go ahead. So item number 23 is related to the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for fiscal 23-24. Mr. City Manager, may we please have the staff presentation?
Madam Mayor and members of the council, we don't have a staff presentation on this. This is our annual report done by Judson and his team. We usually explains how his performance was over the last year for his various funding sources.
All right, thank you. Let me see where I'm at here. Are there any questions or comments by the council? I now open the public hearing for members of the public that'd like to provide their comments in person, virtually. Madam City Clerk, any speakers?
Yes, noting for the record, there's nobody on Zoom. We did not receive any emails for this public hearing, but we do have one speaker. Oh, I apologize. No, no speakers for this public hearing.
Thank you. No further comments. I hereby close the public hearing. No council members have any additional questions? Nothing? Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion and a second, please?
I'll move the item.
I'll second.
Let's prepare to vote, please.
A motion by Councilmember Hernandez, seconded by Councilmember Penaloza, to approve the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for fiscal year 2023-24. Authorize its submission to HUD. Vote is 7 ayes, no nays. Motion carries.
Thank you. We're now going to convene to the Special Successor Agency meeting. And it is approximately 7:42 p.m. I hereby call the Special Successor Agency meeting to order in joint session with the City Council. Madam Secretary, please conduct the roll call.
Agency Member Becerra.
Here.
Agency Member Hernandez.
Present.
Agency Member Lopez.
Here.
Agency Member Penaloza.
Present.
Agency Member Vasquez.
President.
Vice Chair Fan.
Here.
Chair Mesqua.
Present.
All 7 members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before hearing public, hearing item number 24, Madam Clerk, please provide instructions to public if there's anybody here to make a comment.
So there's nobody on Zoom, no need to make that announcement.
Thank you. Item number 24 is a joint public hearing regarding real property at Main and 3rd Streets. Mr. City Manager, do we have a staff presentation?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. We do not have a staff presentation, but I will give you a little bit of a verbal on this one. This is a remnant parcel from our old redevelopment agency days. It's a property on the corner of Main and Third. It operates as a parking lot for Swinnerton. Swinnerton is the occupant of that historic building next door to it. We have leased it out to Swinnerton over the years, but the oversight board at the county wants us to dissolve ourselves of our properties. So what we are recommending is that the city buy it from the successor agency, and the terms and the prices listed in the staff report.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions by the council or comments?
I'll make a motion to move the item.
I'll second.
I'm
We're
sorry.
going to open it for public hearing. So I now open the public hearing for members of the public that would like to provide their comments in person and virtually. Madam City Clerk, do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mayor and City Council, we do have one speaker for this public hearing, Jackie Cordova. Time limit for comments is 2 minutes.
Councilman Hernandez, we'll come back to you. Thank you.
For the 2 minutes. Good evening. My name is Jackie Cordova. I'm a mother of Santa Ana. I did not see this special meeting publicized today, so there is no one here from the community. There's no quorum here. They're basically talking only to themselves. You also lost the Juneteenth event. I wanted to remind you about that. I came to speak directly with the community. I did come to speak on item 24 and the land value based on 60 parking spaces. I came as a reminder of how the city of Santa Ana is out of order. Santa Ana is a sanctuary city, a holy city. We are a protected class of citizens under her umbrella. In 2017, Santa Ana residents against corruption stood up to the criminals in our city and started cleaning house by recalling our corrupt mayor, Miguel Pulido. 1 year ago in October 2023, their own police chief, David Valentin, suddenly announced his retirement, citing corrupt and compromised politicians and compromised staff in his parting remarks to employees. City Manager Christine Ridge also quickly walked away with her hush money settlement due to a toxic work environment, all of this orchestrated by Valerie Amezcua, who we know is beholden to the POA, the Police Officer Association Union, that pays for her spot there. Regarding the value of the land at 3rd and Main, we did find out why your rents are so high. The Justice Department is suing RealPage over an AI-powered scheme to hike rents. The Department of Justice in 8 states, including California, are suing RealPage, alleging their AI rent-setting software algorithms has inflated rents across the country in favor of greedy corporate landlords. Those here on the council who oppose rent control and receive contributions from the same special interests are Phil Becerra, David Penaloza, and Mayor Valerie Amezcua. Thank you.
Mayor and City Council, that concludes the public speakers for this public hearing.
Thank you. No further comments. And council, I hereby close the public hearing. Any council members have any additional comments or questions? Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion? Councilman Hernandez, you made a motion.
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Penaloza. Let's prepare to vote, please.
And Mayor and City Council, this is for the City Council actions that are before you. It's a motion by Councilmember Hernandez, seconded by Councilmember Penaloza, to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Santa Ana approving the purchase and sale agreement for the acquisition of property from the Successor Agency to the former redevelopment agency of the City of Santa Ana located at 3rd Street and Main Street parking lot, and authorizing the city manager to execute the purchase and sale agreement. Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
The vote is 7 ayes, no nays, motion carries. And then if we could please get a separate.
Yeah, I'm going to do it right now. Is there a motion and a second for the Successor Agency actions? I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, excuse me, Secretary.
A motion by Chair Amezcua, seconded by Agency Member Hernandez. to approve the successor agency actions, a resolution of the successor agency to the former Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Santa Ana, declaring 3rd Street and Main Street parking lot as exempt surplus land pursuant to the Exempt Surplus Land Act, and authorizing pursuant to an exemption from CEQA, the sale of the parking lot property to the city. And a second resolution of the successor agency to the former Community Redevelopment Agency of the City of Santa Ana, approving the purchase and sale agreement for the disposition of property to the City of Santa Ana located at 3rd Street and Main Street parking lot, and authorizing the executive director to execute the purchase and sale agreement. Mayor Pro Tem Fan. Councilmember Becerra. Vote is 7 ayes, no nays, motion carries.
Excuse me, I'm going to adjourn the special successor agency meeting at 7:48 PM. It's the end of public hearing. Now we're going to go to the councilmember requested item number 25, was requested by councilmembers Vasquez and Lopez. I will defer to you now to explain the item. Which one of you would like to start,
Thank
please?
you. In early December 2023, a new policy on filming, photography, and recording at the City of Santa Ana public meetings was implemented, heavily restricting the movement of photojournalists in the city council chambers during the public council meetings. The policy was not brought forth for public discussion before being drafted or adopted. Later that month, the First Amendment Coalition sent a letter to the City of Santa Ana objecting to the new policy, co-signed by the Orange County Press Club, Voice of Orange County, Los Angeles Press Club, Los Angeles Chapter of Society of Professional Journalists, and the industrial workers of the World Freelance Journalists Union. In this letter, the FAC and its numerous co-signers argued that the policy violates the Ralph M. Brown Act and threatens the ability of the press to exercise editorial discretion in covering public meetings, urging the City Council to immediately withdraw the policy and commit to adhering to the Brown Act, respecting the press rights. So we bring you forth today to have this conversation, to look at this policy that we have and have a discussion to give staff a way to have more freedom of the press within our council chambers.
Are there any comments or questions by the council? Councilman Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank my colleagues, council members Vasquez and council members Lopez, for bringing this item forward. I want to reaffirm my support for this item in directing our city manager to rescind this policy. I don't believe that the city should infringe on the press's ability to do their job, nor should we tell them where to do their job. And so the direction is simple, sir. I'd like to see us rescind the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So I see pros and cons to this, right? I would like to see something come back because I do, look, when there's not a lot of people in the chambers, not a problem. But when pretty much every seat is filled and we have literally a gaggle of photographers, videographers, camera crews up in the front, blocking the aisles and things like that, that's a problem. So I think that we can have something that's a little bit more flexible and doable depending on the situation. And I think that, I'd like to see what we come up with because I do agree that, it is awesome when there are those who come in and want to document public comments or something because they're documentarians or they want to film for press purposes. But I also want to say that it is very common in pretty much any location to have press locations to ensure that members of the public, city staff, and police officers, as well as potentially firefighters or paramedics, to have clear access throughout the room. So, I guess I would like to see something come back rather than a straight up rescission at this point and see what we can do. I don't think that it's necessary to say if we have one camera person in a room like this to force them to be in the back corner. But when we have a lot of seniors and kids and families up front who are, getting certificates of recognition and things, and, they come after school, after work, but then the press comes and it's their job, so they're here at 3:30, 4:30 for a 5:30 meeting. You know, they're blocking the front view. I don't think that's fair either. So I guess I would leave it to staff. I would ask that staff come back with something like that to see what we can do to really meet the moment or meet the occasion depending on the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Penaloza, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank my colleagues for agendizing this discussion. I know we can't make a decision here tonight because it's discussion only, but I want to say that I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Fan. I believe that our press should be allowed in the room, and if it's a day like this where there's nobody in here, you know, if you want to hang out in the front row, that's fine with me. I don't care. But when there are packed chambers like we've seen in the past, standing in front of somebody that's seated in a wheelchair like we've seen before, that's just plain rude. You know, we need to balance it out, right? I know that also there was some speakers over the last 6-7 months that they announce, it's my first time here, never been here before, and there's somebody with the camera in their face. You could tell how uncomfortable that speaker is. So we want to make it a comfortable space for everybody that's exercising their First Amendment right to come and speak. And if it's a packed chamber, packed room, yeah, they should be designated areas for the press to hang out in. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Fans. Let's see, bring back this policy, see what we could, you know, to make it a little more flexible in the type of enforcement or rules that we want to have. I won't call it enforcement, but rules. Or see what else we could think of as a city staff and as us up here. So I'll be supportive of Mayor Pro Tem's, I wouldn't say motion, but idea of bringing something back that could give us that flexibility depending on the amount of people in the room.
I am also in support of Mayor Pro Tem's recommendations. So with that, Councilman Becerra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure all my colleagues saw the letter we got from the senior editor of the Orange County Register today, who requested that we revise the policy, and I would agree with that sentiment, which I know that Mayor Pro Tem Pham had brought up, and I think that that's what we should be doing. We don't need to throw out the policy, and I agree that having folks come into the chamber to speak shouldn't be forced to have a camera thrusted into their face. There needs to be a balance. One thing that we should all take pride in is the fact that we are probably the most transparent city in Orange County. Now, our chambers are pretty empty tonight, but there are folks that are able to watch this meeting at home on YouTube, be able to participate via Zoom. We were doing that during the pandemic when a lot of other cities weren't. And when the pandemic ended and a lot of cities can go back to the old Brown Act, we continued to allow for our meetings to be open so that they were accessible. So I think the policy could be revised. How that looks, I'm looking forward to the discussion at a subsequent meeting.
Any other speakers? You want to lift it so I can see? There you go, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, thank you. So I'm not opposed to options as long as they are in alignment with the Brown Act, because the first policy that the city released was not, which was why it was revised to 1 page versus 2 pages. And again, addressing the specific concerns of filming in specific places, whether that is filming, photography, and any other forms of recording, making sure that those provisions don't currently violate the Brown Act, because as worded, it could prohibit a meeting attendee from recording audio or video snapping. So I just want to make sure that anything that is being brought back is actually vetted through our legal department, that is not putting us in direct conflict with the Brown Act as it did months ago, and obviously to make sure that there's flexibility for the press, right? There's no need for them to be cornered in a red box that sometimes is or isn't being used. Where do you want them to sit if the space designated for them is not available, as it has happened in the past? I'm not, again, I think that the front rows should be designated for ADA compliant, for people with those necessities. but it is not, to me, a disruption in any way if there's somebody standing on the backside of the room. You know, we have seen this chamber, for whatever reason, be completely full, where there are people waiting to come and speak, right? Whether it's about housing issue or not. And so the same way that we wouldn't turn our constituents away or try to put them in some sort of box is the same way that we should not be treating the press for whatever reason. We don't have to like the press, we don't have to like what they write, but we have to respect them because they're an important component of our democracy, and they do great reporting. So if you're gonna bring something back, make sure that it's compliant, City Attorney.
Councilmember Vasquez?
I want to thank my peers and the council for having a balanced approach and the comments that you've made and making sure that we give everybody the ability to see this meeting, but also be recorded. And the Brown Act is really clear that that a recording that cannot continue without noise, elimination, or obstruction of view that constitutes or would constitute a persistent disruption of proceedings. So those things are very clear, right? You know, as you all had said, it's beautiful that we're having this conversation, and let's make sure we give the press the space that they need to continue to do their job so we can continue to be the most transparent city in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam City Attorney, I want to thank you because I know you've been involved, Madam City Attorney, from the beginning in all of this. And Mr. City Manager, I think you have clear direction, correct? We're good?
Yeah, I just like to say for the record that I believe that your revised policy does clearly comply with the law, but I'm also very respectful of a council that wants flexibility and wants to be able to be responsive to some of the comments you received. So we will be happy to look into some of those and work with staff.
Thank you, Madam City Attorney. Appreciate that. Okay, City Manager captured that direction. Let's move on to City Manager comments, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My apologies. Sorry if I missed it, but do we have a timeline? Do we talk about that?
There's a lot going on right now. Would 30 days work for you, Mr. City Manager, Madam City Attorney?
Yes, at least 30 days.
At least 30
Please.
days. Madam
Okay.
City Attorney?
So can we,
Right.
in the interim, use some flexible judgment in the event that there are, press pending this updated policy?
Well, I think for me, my concern when we say that is that the fire marshals made it very clear, and when we talk about nobody standing in the aisles and blocking the doors. So if we let them bring it back in 30 days, we make one allowance for one person, and just my personal opinion, turns into another person. What do you recommend, Mr. City Manager? I know that we're the council, but however.
Right. Give us at least the 30 days so we can review. Obviously, we want to exercise flexibility, but again, this is what we found out recently, right? Flexibility is a double-edged sword. So we have to be careful how we apply that. We want to be consistent. We want to be fair. Obviously, this is a policy that we inherited. So we want to make sure that we evaluate why the city managers implemented this in the first place and how we are respectful and make sure that we offer that flexibility without making it seem oblivious or that we're working in an independent, unilateral manner.
Okay, I think we're good with that. Let's do council member comments. Councilmember Hernandez, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank members of the public who joined today's council meeting.
I'm sorry, Councilman Hernandez, I apologize. I asked if you had any comments. I apologize. Did you have any, sir?
No comments.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so. I know they keep me on my toes, but I could have sworn you said you're good. Okay, sorry, Councilman Hernandez, go ahead.
Yes, just wanted to thank members of the public who came out to today's meeting that began unfortunately last Tuesday, but there was a lot of good business that was done today. We were able to expand childcare services in the Logan neighborhood. Lots of great things coming to the Santa Ana community. The downtown Santa Ana now has the Frida Cinema that is leading the Santa Ana ArtWalk. And so that is an investment all of us here at the council agreed upon. And I want to thank the city staff for the Fiestas Patrias event. 80,000 residents came out to that event over 2 days. I think that has to be record-breaking numbers for us. I remember the very first one that we brought back, and I remember all of the advocacy we had to bring the event back to La Cuatro. I especially want to thank our deputy city manager and our city manager. Alvaro Nunez, Sylvia Vasquez, for advocating and working with the businesses. And you guys did not exclude them. You guys kept them involved. A lot of the businesses were very happy. They shared their reflections. A lot of businesses benefited from economic development. People were spending their money in the downtown. We heard a lot of good things, and so just want to share those compliments with our staff. This was one of my favorite events. I think that this is a shining example of Parks and Rec's best work. I mean, you guys shut the streets down. You guys had an amazing event and a parade that was well attended. Today's comments is just about highlighting your guys' great work. And I also want to thank the community for having the Little Saigon Festival at Rosita Park. Thank you, city staff, as well, for being very helpful with them throughout the process. And in memory of Don Cribb, rest in peace. Thank you.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Thank you so much. Yes, as well, Fiestas Patrias was great, amazing. The parade, I love it. I'm glad we still have that parade. It was supposed to be gone some time ago, but we kept it, and it's a beautiful thing for Santa Ana. You know, I still miss the Christmas toy parade. We used to have that here many years ago. I was a volunteer carrying a big balloon down Main Street, but thank you for keeping the Fiestas parade. I was a chunky kid. I wasn't going up. And the event also was beautiful. I also attended the Little Saigon Festival here in Santa Ana at Rosita Park. We had a great time. They asked me to do art workshop with the kids, and we were making buttons. So we were passing out information from the city on rent control. A lot of children came over, and adults, and we were making buttons. It was a great time and a great workshop. Great event all the way around to Via Rice for doing that work. On a sadder note, we did in the school district had a lot of worries about lockdowns the previous week. That was all over the country, and luckily we were better equipped this time. 2 years ago, we had a lockdown in Santa Ana, and we have one of the best trained police departments when it comes to lockdowns. Only the procedure from the police department and the school police department didn't match up. I was at Valley and we had a lockdown, and we were supposed to run, hide, fight. We shut our doors, we're quiet, we don't pick up a phone, we don't make any noise. So they were calling us, and we're like, the city police were like, why aren't they picking up? We're not supposed to. And in one classroom, the ceramics classroom, the police entered the room to check it out with a rifle leading the way. And the kids, if they did the right thing, they were supposed to throw at the officer with the gun. They didn't, they froze. Luckily, nothing happened. I right away started talking to the then city manager, to the police chief of the school district. And until we finally got people to work together where we did have a lockdown on McFadden last week. And our city manager called the supervisor, the chiefs talked to each other. The police on the ground for both sides understood that the procedures were not there yet and professionally did their job. So it was good to have a relationship. I'm happy to have pressed this for 2 years because it's great to have a relationship with the school district and the city as we come together, and it's necessary. And I want to thank the police department in the school and the police department of the city for coming to the help of the school. And they did an amazing job. So I want to do a shout out to everybody who made sure, including our city manager, Alvaro, and all the people involved for doing an amazing job, even though we haven't trained yet. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping they have, that the procedures are now connecting. But they were able to do the work correctly. So thank you.
Councilmember Lopez, please. Councilmember Lopez, you have no comments?
No, I do. I'm just getting my notes. So we're hosting October office hours for the month of October, and we will release the date and time on our news e-blasts and on our social media channels. Additionally, I also want to thank staff for completing the light projects at Santiago Park. Everybody loves it. It's really nice to see everybody using the tennis courts, especially now that we're losing sunlight, and people still be at the park. And so I want to really thank Public Works and Parks and the City Manager's Office for working on that project with us. And Lastly, we want to invite the public to come to the Building Bridges Across Generations event, Friday, September 27th, from 9 to 1. And Parks and Recs is leading this, so thank you. And it is an event for our senior community to come together for their second annual International Older Adult Celebration at Jerome Park. And Parks and Recs will have activities, free food, prices, performances, music, and dancing. And so I hope that the community comes out and takes advantage of the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Becerra, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I want to echo some of the sentiments from my colleagues in regards to Fiestas Patrias. That was an amazing event, so thank you to the CMO's office and to Parks and Rec for all that you guys did. That was an amazing time. A lot of folks having fun out there, so that was good. I also want to thank the CMO's office as well in regards to the fencing along the Flower Street Bike Trail. That's something that has been needed since those two kids were assaulted right there at the bus stop on Flower and Alton. So I want to thank you for all the action and to Public Works as well for being able to get that fence up and constructed. Though I believe it's still a work in progress, but again, thank you for getting that going. On Thursday, September 19th, 8 Orange County Fire Authority hand crew members were returning from battling the airport fire when they were involved in a rollover crash on a nearby freeway. 8 members were injured and 6 were critically injured and transported to local area hospitals. The OC Firefighters Union, also known as Local 3631, together with OCFA, are working to ensure that these members and their families have the care and resources that they need in the long road that they have to recovery. So please support our firefighters by donating, if you can, at fallenfirefighterrelieffund.org /OCFA hand crew. Please keep our firefighters and their families in your prayers today. And finally, we lost a visionary in the passing of Don Cribb. Don Cribb was a very colorful character and gave so much to the city. And I know the mayor is going to be reading his bio. Again, it's very, very fascinating, all the things that he did and the long service he had to our city. So Don Cribb will definitely be missed, but his legacy in our city will live on. So with that, good night, everybody.
Councilor Becerra, you're more than welcome to cover it. They did not give me the bio, so if you want to share on him. I don't have it either, so I apologize.
You have it at the next council meeting.
I'll share at the next council meeting. So to the Cribb family, I apologize. Councilman Penaloza.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have no comments. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, everyone. Hello. So first of all, it has been a busy time. Thank you to staff. Thank you to the Ward 1 team. Thank you to everyone, the families. Despite all of these events, there are a couple things I do want to highlight. First of all is the everyday work that our staff do in response to community complaints, concerns, issues. We had a local property owner, a business that had issues with people using residential areas for commercial purposes and things like that. Our Public Works team found a way, and our code enforcement team found a way to address that quickly. We have had so many events with Chicano Heritage, as well as the library's Chicano Heritage educational event, and then we had the La Raza mural unveiling. But I have to say that Fiestas Patrias was just absolutely incredible. Thank you so much to Director Scott, Parks team, everyone, because I know everyone was out there. We had folks from all different departments, staffing booths, and just being out there working overtime to create this incredible event. One thing I want to really highlight for those who have not experienced it the way that I had is, as a Vietnamese American immigrant, standing up on that stage and looking out, I'm gonna get emotional, because looking out into the sea of Latino Americans, Hispanic Americans, with many of them Mexican flags waving in the air, and being so proud of the heritage and history and the country in which you come is something that my community as Vietnamese American refugees do not have. We have lost that connection to our home country due to a civil war. We have lost that relationship, and we do not have the free access to the culture, history, and resources that our motherland provides, that Latino Americans have today, many Latino Americans, especially Mexican Americans. So I just wanted to say that it is incredible to represent our community here in Santa Ana, to be Vietnamese American, but also to represent a large Latino population in Ward 1. And I just want to say a huge shout out to Jasley, my chief of staff, Amanda, my council aide, Ashley, my junior council aide, and the Ward 1 team for having the best booth, the most fun time. And I know all of you got some wonderful stickers, temporary tattoos. And with that, have a wonderful night. We'll see you on Tuesday. Thanks.
I don't know about the best booth, but okay. All right, so all right, you sure? Okay. All right, let me go.
Oh my gosh, I'm so
What?
sorry. I will get so much in trouble for this. First, happy 10th dating anniversary to my husband. And also, happy birthday, babe.
Yeah, you would have been in trouble. Okay, so Councilman Becerra, can you share the link again for our fire authority and our firemen that are injured? And I'd like to make sure you share that one more time, please.
I don't have it in front of me at the moment.
Oh, okay.
But,
So, Mr. City Manager, can we please put that link up on our website? So, and that information, in case anybody wants to donate to the fire authority to assist our firemen that were injured while they were on duty. That is why first responders are so important. You know, not all the work that they do, whether it's fire or police, they put their lives on the line every single day. So I just want to share really quick. So while I was here, we gave them keys to the city on the 14th. It was a beautiful event, and so I want to thank the staff. Sylvia, our deputy city manager, and our city manager, the staff made that happen without any kinks. It was wonderful. Can't wait for a press release to go out on that. And they'll be back, and we're going to hopefully go visit them. You all will get an invitation for that to visit them in Sewell, because we have some great stuff going to hopefully happen with them, with our new leadership here at the city. Fiesta Patrias was wonderful. The Girl Scouts and the Brownies rode with me and walked in front of me and danced in front of the trolley I was on. It was absolutely wonderful. So to all the city staff, starting with the city manager down, thank you for everything. Hawk, thank you for taking good care of my parents. I appreciate that. But it was just a great event, and as Mayor Pro Tem said, you know, when you look out into the audience, wherever you are from, wherever you come from, however you feel, it was a beautiful, beautiful weekend. And what I heard, I believe that there were no problems, Chief Rodriguez? That's what I heard, and so thank you for being out there, your men and women from the police department. We really appreciate that. I also want to share that on this past Friday, or last Monday, I was a moderator for the Needle Exchange with 39 different cities. And I didn't touch on that last meeting, but it's really important that everybody knows we've not stopped the work, we're just doing other work. And so I was joined by the city manager and the deputy city manager and some other staff, and we shared with the other cities what Santa Ana has been doing, is doing, and will continue to do to hopefully not allow they call it the needle exchange, we're going to call it the needle distribution into our city. And no, we're not NIMBY, but hearing from cities that are experiencing the needle distribution, we do not want that in our city. It's caused them a lot of problems. So that's something that we are working on. And so thank you, city staff, for doing that. Also, I have coffee with the mayor coming up this Saturday at the Santa Ana Senior Center. It's always exciting at the Senior Center. Thank you, Councilman Penalosa and Becerra, for always joining me. This weekend, also Congressman Correa and Assemblyman Valencia will be joining me at Saturday at the Senior Center with the staff. They love being around the seniors. We all love being around the seniors. They give us life. And so that is from 10 to 12 at the Senior Center on 3rd and Ross. So make sure I get that right. Also, on October 14th, I'll be having, along with some others in the room, Prop 36 Educational Forum. It is not to tell you how to vote one way or another. It is to educate you on Prop 36 so that you understand what it is, what it means, what's going to happen, if it passes, what could or could not happen, if it doesn't pass, where we go. And it is just going to be a wonderful educational forum. educational forum. It's not indoctrination, it's an educational forum for all those that want to attend. And I have monthly Neighborhood Association President meetings, so in lieu of that meeting, we're going to have a Prop 36 educational forum. I also want to share again this evening, there was another homicide, Mr. City Manager. I know there are things that people are concerned about. We have homicides happening in Ward 2 on a pretty regular basis, so thank you, Chief, for really focusing in some of our areas that are hot spots for us. I really appreciate it. I also want to say thank you to the staff, Mr. City Manager again, and Deputy City Manager. There's been some movement going on and some great things happening in our city. Our bus stops are being cleaned 6 days a week. They are being cleaned by a company that works with the city, but CityNet and Santa Ana PD are involved, and so I want to thank all the staff. They are being cleaned, deodorized, and sanitized so that nobody is sleeping on them, and people who want to take the bus to and from work, wherever they need to go, they actually can sit there safely, and you sit on the bus and not have to sit on god-awful things, and they're being sanitized. I want to share that with everybody. So thank you to the city staff and to Mr. City Manager for taking the lead on that and really activating, right? You're doing some wonderful things with your staff to not push people out and say, we don't want you here, but our community wants a clean city, and we want to be safe, and it's a good quality of life. And so I really appreciate that work. And thank you, Councilman Vasquez, for getting involved with the police department. I will say that a couple years ago when I was on the school board, we did simulations training at one of our high school so that all of the police departments can come together. And at that time, Chief Mencia worked with Chief Valentin, and we worked with OKAYAK and Orange County Fire Authority and Orange County Sheriff's Department and Santa Ana PD and Santa Ana Unified, and parents were involved, and they went through some training about safety and what to do, what not to do, because, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, if there is actually a shooting at one of our school sites, Santa Ana PD will be the leading agency.
Yes, we will respond and assist in any way and take the lead if necessary.
That's correct. So because Santa Ana Unified used to have 35 officers, and they don't have that many officers anymore because the board has not allowed them to hire any more officers. And so Santa Ana PD really does take care of our schools along with Santa Ana Unified School Police Department. They have great officers. So it has not just been a 2-year project by Councilman Vasquez, as he all wants you to believe. So Mr. Pelosi and I sat on that school board, and for 8 years, I worked very closely with the police department, Santa Ana Unified School Police, and Santa Ana Police Department, and OKAYAK, and the Sheriff's Department, and the Fire Authority to make sure that everybody was talking to protect our students, because parents are always complaining about how they don't feel safe. That is why when I sat on the school board, we implemented a one-way in, a one-way out for the safety of our children. Is the school board still doing that? I do not know, because apparently, according to the court case with the ADL, they're more concerned about other things than the safety of our children. So thank you, Councilor Vasquez, for now getting involved in that. But that work has been going on for many, many years, and hopefully with a new board or a current board, it will continue to grow. We will continue to work, Santa Ana Unified School Police, with Santa Ana PD, and when mutual aid is needed by the Sheriff's Department and OKAYAK and the Fire Authority, that we will all work together to keep our children safe. So thank you all very much, and this meeting is adjourned.
Recording stopped.